So much of anything that I've had in the realm of success is because of attention. There are so many better authors than me that didn't sell any books. There are so many better coaches than me that never had a fitness app. There are so many better entrepreneurs than me that never started a business. And it's all because they couldn't get people's attention. Everyone that doesn't know you is looking for a reason to leave. You have to get to almost a certain amount of clout to be in a position to create your own brand. It just so happens to be at the point that people's ego takes over. I'm so glad I didn't go on Love Island to get all my followers overnight, because you need to grow and adapt with that level of growth. If we sold millions a month, it would be too fast for me to adapt or keep up with it. It would be too stressful. One of my productivity mechanisms was definitely for a long time creating a catastrophic vision of the future. You're not going to make any sales. If you're not going to make any sales, you're not going to earn any money. If you don't earn any money, you're going to lose the house. If you lose your house, you're moving back in with your parents. And this kind of negative self-talk. But then when I had kids, suddenly there was something more important than my productivity. Buyers, supermarkets, whatever, potentially listening, and they're trying to gauge whether or not this founder is going to be right, blah, blah, blah. It would be so inappropriate for me to talk about snorting cocaine, doing MDMA. But I know out there somewhere, someone could potentially listen to that and go, fuck me, that's refreshing.
How's Chris's ego different from yours?
The only gripe I have with Chris is...
James, thank you for doing this. I have a big consumer of your content over the years. It's super intriguing, and I think what I want to start with is actually this I juice and the word I. I think you've got a unique ability to almost find common, uncommon sense, and you kind of look like an I. You're super curious, and then you find these truths that other people can't see, but you've seen them straight away, and then you put them in these really pithy aphorisms through like really hardcore kind of storytelling, and I think it's genius. I really want to get into this kind of how you see things to begin with, and then how you create these aphorisms. And for listeners, and we'll go through some of these today, I think they're amazing. So all wins feel the same. I think that's unreal. The swimmer's fallacy: you don't pick the sport picks you. Unreal. In your confidence book, losing is not defeat, I really, really, really liked. And I think the reframe and the framing of confidence isn't your relationship with is actually relationship with failure, not success. And there's tons. And I think that the quote I want to start with is: the world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes. And that's Sherlock Holmes. So we're starting with some fucking eye juice and Sherlock Holmes. But I'd love to know what is stuff that you're currently seeing and observing that no one else is seeing, and then we can go through some of these principles.
Very flattering. I think you make me sound more intelligent than I am with your introduction. I maybe don't even see this myself. I do like spotting trends. One thing that I've often said to people is, I suppose I got validation from Gary Vee recently as to what it is that I'm interested in. There are so many people that like stocks, ETFs, investments, and to me that's never really appealed. When I got into social media, it was kind of day trading with people's attention, and that's why I've become obsessed with cameras, recording, editing, pacing, storytelling, all of these things, because while all my friends were doing sensible things in their 20s, and up until 27 I'd actually never accomplished anything impressive in my life, I was kind of learning the landscape of getting people's attention. And even now, when it comes to products, 2 years ago, if you'd asked me if I'd ever have a drinks business, I would have said, nah. I actually said no to my first book deal. I was like, mate, I'm a PT. However, over the last maybe 5 years, I've realized that using people's attention, using maybe sounds like a bad word, getting in front of people is quite an interesting and powerful way to conduct business, brand, in the online space. And even if you look around, I used to be a bit annoyed seeing my nephew using his iPad all the time, but now I'm kind of at peace with it, because this is the way we're going in the world. You look around, you think, do I want a billboard or do I want to be on someone's mobile phone? No one's walking down the street looking at a billboard. I think most billboard sales now are sold to people so they can have a photo in front of it to put on social media. So this was just something that I kind of observed early on, and even now I have to really watch people's habitual ways of absorbing content. For instance, I think the most people that you and I would want to do business with do their doom scrolling in bed at night.
Yeah.
They do it probably in bed next to their partner. They've done their work and administrative tasks. They've done their training. They've probably eaten dinner, maybe absorbed some type of television media. then they give themselves 30 to 60 minutes of pure, unadulterated binge. And in that period, people are very, what would you say? They're very conscious of who they give their attention to and who they don't, which really gets me to focus on how important, say, the first 2 seconds of content are, whether it's visual, verbal, whatever it is. So I'm really just trying to look at my own actions and behaviors, the actions and behaviors of people slightly outside of mine, and how I could win those people over, whether it's with honest marketing, direct marketing, or the slower form of mediums like books and audiobooks. And I find it fascinating because some people you would have had on are true visionaries and true entrepreneurs and true CEOs. I actually, if I was to look at the sales funnel, just see myself as that brand awareness. Really all I do is send people to websites.
Yeah.
So if you would say, James, I'm going to give you a team of 15 people, I'll go, they're all going to quit. They're all going to leave. None of them are going to want to work for me. I'm not going to be able to lead your business. But what I can do is sit down with different social media strategies to get people that haven't tried the drink to have it, people that haven't heard of the brand to recognize it. And that's really, the more I've come to realize that's my skill set, the better I've come at accepting where I sit within a business.
So it's observing the landscape of attention is, I think, what you said, which I think is a great way of putting it. And I think what you said there about, and it is what I was trying to get to, is it's that sitting back and seeing what people are doing, how people are acting, where they're going. As you say, people aren't looking at a billboard, they're looking at their phone these days. What have you learnt that other people probably don't know or haven't been that obsessed with it about that in that landscape of attention? Like, how do you get people's attention? And this is sort of more from a first principles perspective, not necessarily like a tactic on YouTube versus TikTok. Like, what is the first principles of getting attention?
I think the first has to be, and this can go back all the way to my coaching days, where it's not about giving someone an optimal workout or diet. It's about giving them something that's optimal for them. So everything has to be, first of all, understanding of where that person's at. And I think the landscape that we're in is ever changing, and people, probably through ego, are quite hard to accept the fact that the landscape is changing so much and they need to adapt with it. So one thing at the moment is an interesting kind of shift from maybe 6-12 months ago, very fast, in your face, really sharp edits, lots of animations, lots of visual and audio kind of hooks to keep people into it. I think we're starting to see some fatigue with that. I think longer format, slower format, text-based format is coming back a bit, where even I like to try different things on different platforms. In the moment, just typing things on LinkedIn, which I've always been terrible at on LinkedIn. And rather than trying to take something that works on Instagram Reels and putting it somewhere else, I think that now we're almost seeing a bit of a comeback to typed, thought out content, in the sense that so much of what we've had probably since the pandemic is short, viral, in your face, obscene, obscure, TikTokification of social media. And now we're starting to see a little bit of a bounce back from that. Similarly to how politics goes left and right, the same thing happens on this landscape in front of us. So I like to temperature test with that a lot of the time. If you ever see a random post from me on a platform, it's probably me just trying to gauge how it works. Yeah. I joke around with people and say, when you first start dating a girl, you have no idea what she's into and what she isn't. You kind of have to play around and gauge the response by looking at them.
Yeah.
And it's the same absolutely everywhere else. And I like to just have a look at those things, try different things out. And even 10 years into this game, I still transparently would say to people, I don't know what's going to work. I have a feeling that this could benefit you. I have a feeling that this could be a good way of doing it. We spoke offline before that even I feel traditional marketing for so many departments is still feeling quite archaic. With, for instance, one creative I was given was almost going to war with coffee for the drink. I said, this is ridiculous.
What, as you were working with you had an agency who were giving you creative
Just our
ideas?
socials team within Newtonic was saying,
right, okay, yeah.
Here's an easy shot. We have 120 milligrams of caffeine and nootropics. That's just 100 milligrams of caffeine. Easy shot. And I'm thinking, do you know what? If I try and portray this anti-coffee, it's not only going to be disingenuous, it's going to be ineffective. So what would be an interesting way to start the content would be to almost semi-shit on the marketing department. So I started a video saying that the marketing department told me that coffee is a bad thing. I ordered a cup of coffee in my hand. I'm like, this is great. This is fantastic. This is a different product to what I'm about to sell you. And I even say to people, and I make money on this. And I think that first hook is a little bit refreshing, a little bit different, a little bit, that makes a change from everyone trying to say their product is superior. And I kind of said to people, you should start your day with coffee. I think if you start your day with a fizzy drink, you're something wrong with you. And your dentist probably won't be too happy. And to take someone on a little journey where you actually were honest in the onset is so different to what we see in traditional media. For instance, the majority of people on TV they're playing a character which is so easy to see as fake. When I'm on TV, they're like, James, welcome to the show this morning. I'm like, whoa.
Chill the fuck out. Yeah.
Human emotions don't go that high. Even if we're in a bar with all my best mates, we're not like, oh, Dave, fantastic to see you. Then the second they cut to an ad break, the face drops, they're on their phone, checking Twitter. I think there's so much fake stuff out there that just being real with people is almost a hook and a trend in itself, where people go, oh, that's refreshing. I think Liquid Death, again, were very good at going against the grain with media that was so unordinary. It's like, the title or the brand name kind of doesn't make sense. Older people are like, hold on, what did you just say? Then the marketing, the videos they put on YouTube. I mean, they didn't actually promote the drink, they just made viral videos with the drink. And again, that's where I think a lot of brands are maybe taking the wrong avenue. There is a lady in America who is thinking up creative ways to destroy a drink that she works for. And I think her hook is proving a marketing department that I can make better creatives than them. And she drives over the cans, destroys them, does really weird things. But she's getting the attention of people on short form content platforms.
Do you know what the company is she works for?
Can't remember. So she's not that good.
Yeah. No, but it is interesting. It's I think with a lot of your content is you are pushing against. It's almost as observing where is the attention landscape going. Say it's moving in that direction, then you push against it with raw, authentic. Just truth. And this is what I was saying to you at the beginning. Is I think you've got these abilities to spot truths that other people aren't necessarily cognizant of.
I think as well that so much, I suppose the purpose behind this is so much of anything that I've had in the realm of success is because of attention.
Yeah.
And I think that really the true first tier audience of people for this product are people that also want attention, because there are so many better authors than me that didn't sell any books. There are so many better coaches than me that never had a fitness app. There are so many better entrepreneurs than me that never started a business. And it's all because they couldn't get people's attention. And we're now in a world that when people are filming, editing, even you think about this studio, the fact that we've got professional lighting, good audio, it's all part of getting attention. And that's really where I feel the masterclass that I would like to give to people is that if you can capture someone's attention, everything trickles down towards a business. And there's been traditional old media, paid ads, but now we live in a world where organically, because the majority of all of our sales have been organic to begin with.
Yeah, and on Newtonic.
Yeah, and I think that in itself is, again, kind of counterintuitive. Where people go, oh, just get some paid ads behind it, just do this, just do that. But in a world where you can get attention, again, Chris Williamson, his podcast is just an attention seeking machine. The guests, the conversations, the clips, all thought out methodically so that when he presents his argument or his clip to a YouTube browse page, out of 8 videos that you see on that page, it's his that you click. It is all about getting the attention of the people that are spending time on social media. A biggest downfall of YouTube is people try to optimize content for search, thinking of it as a search engine, but really YouTube is a browse engine. You want to optimize your titles and thumbnails for people browsing, not searching.
Yes.
If you were saying how to open a beer bottle with only 2 fingers next time you're camping, that could be, one, it could be something that people could be searching for, how to open a beer bottle. But if you were to then pick something obscure, 99% of people can't open a beer bottle this way. That's something that would capture someone in a browse kind of mindset. So yes, having all of these things in mind that really, I bet there are so many products that have been thought of, planned, strategized, but they just lack the attention to grow it.
That is the first principle, isn't it? I love the way you've just boiled that down. It is, you can have the best business in the world, but if no one knows about it, there's no attention, then you're up shit creek. Let's go into, and I'm asking this selfishly here, as I said, like kind of skirted around with YouTube, had things recorded, was doing it on the iPhone to begin with to get the podcast going, was growing organically. We have a great thumbnails guy, but we're not, this A/B testing, that thing you were talking about. Like, what is the art, and almost like kind of your craft of getting attention? Like, and maybe we can use a specific video that's absolutely booted off. But I would love to go into the process behind the scenes of how you created that attention.
Packaging is something I've invested a lot into recently. So what annoys me is I wish I was such an arsehole surrounding packaging when I did my second and third book, because I wouldn't have signed off the titles and the covers.
Really?
I was more concerned with what was in the book than how it looked.
What would you have called the another diet book and
not a diet book was great. That was the first time we were actually pissed in Hawksmoor in Borough Market,
right?
Blind drunk.
Yeah.
And the strategy director at HarperCollins was like, well, "What are we going to call this? Because it's not a diet book." And I was like, "That's what we're going to fucking call it."
Yes.
And it worked. And then we tried to play off that. We actually tried to replicate a thumbnail again for Not a Life Coach, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
It went over too many people's heads. Similarly to in content, everyone that doesn't know you is looking for a reason to leave. They're looking. The best way this can be explained is someone that isn't watching your content or watches it for the first time hates you. Yes. And they are just waiting for you to give them an opportunity to never watch your content again. So that second book cover, and again, arguably, I should have been on the first because I was getting a lot of exposure. The second one, you've got
to... you should have been on the
first one, yeah. The second one, maybe it could have been a good time to take me off. Again, in thumbnails, people seem to think they need to be on the thumbnail, but if the video is about them, sure, but if the video is not about them, they shouldn't be there. And this would probably take me into my most successful YouTube video is...
Sorry, just quickly, what would you have called the confidence book?
I haven't figured it out yet. Because if I do, we're fucking reprinting.
It's interesting because I've read that book and it's like, it's fucking banging book and we'll get into it. But I was reading it, it's like as much a book about sort of human evolution, like behavioral economics, biases, like all sorts, and obviously health and fitness as well. And then it's almost like the iceberg is the word confidence. But I was reading the book, there's just so much in it.
We called the tour the C word, and I think we actually should have called the book the C word. And I'm actually debating, I'm going to write another book, and I've spent about 6 months with the advance in my pocket, don't feel bad for me, thinking of the title. And I was actually leaning on using the C word legitimately in the title so that I could never go on TV and talk about it, and that so no bookshops would want it. And that would be my marketing angle. So that, hey guys, I've written a book. You won't be able to find it anywhere because the title is so abhorrent. Or I was thinking of another title that would be "Please Don't Read This," or something that would really get people going, why? And you could then sit on TV, people go, why'd you call the book "Please Don't Read This"? And I go, well, if you read this, you're going to face some uncomfortable truths. Even with those two lines, we're creating Inquisit, where with the title "How to Be Confident," they know what the fuck it's going to be about. And they're going to go, nah, I'm all right.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point, that. Is because the word confidence is like you're going, I think, I don't know who said it, but the pain is the pitch, and it's confidence is one of those only words that people think they've got in abundance, or would hate to say that they haven't got confidence, and even myself, like when I read that book, and I think one of the really, again, this is something like, I think you observe things that people don't necessarily see at first on sort of the first level, and it's that beautiful nuance. And in the book, which I loved, there's a bit where you're sort of saying, or like kind of the synopsis is, you can be really confident in one area of your life, but fucking awful in the other area of your life. And I think that is such delicious nuance. I think most people, myself included, will spend so much time almost on that area of their life where they're really confident, and almost blind them from bringing up that other area. You know what I mean? So like, I'm happy to speak to anyone on a podcast, but thought of going up to a girl and asking for a number at a bar, like it absolutely shit myself. Do you know what I mean? But I would lean on the confidence bit of like, oh no, I've got a podcast, like, I'm fine. And I think I'd never seen someone sort of frame it as that before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's a weird one. And do you know what? Some people would think I started making content because I was confident, but it was actually the content that made me confident. It was a weird journey where in the beginning I was putting out content purely because I didn't want to prospect on the gym floor.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than, going up to someone going, hey mate, there's a little mistake you're making with your breath. Fuck off. Cheers, mate. You have a good day. Cheers, mate. And you go through that like 4 or 5 times. So in the onset, making content was all about that. And then I'd be writing blogs on what's better out of a potato or a sweet potato. And then someone would in the gym go, oh, I liked your blog. Oh, sick. Then I remember maybe 2015, I was in Waitrose Cafe and the guy next to me nudged me and goes, I like your blogs. And that gave me the fire to write more of them. And then my first video was in maybe 2015, early 2016. Then when that first video takes off, and then the comments in that are saying, this is great, this really helped me, I never thought of it that way. It just keeps continually spurring you on. I actually think that no one is a confident entrepreneur until they accidentally make money. And then it's kind of you're creating evidence to stack up to why you are potentially an entrepreneur, or why you are a business owner, or why you do have these skill sets. I even think that I launched the business last year that I wasn't sure if it was going to go well, and it's done so well.
What was the business?
It's a business mentorship for coaches.
Yep.
Real simple stuff: email marketing, sales pages, social media content strategy. And in the onset, it was just a whim. I was like, I don't know if the demand's there, don't know if we're going to get a good ROAS on the paid ads, whatever it is. And continually, in the beginning, I was like, oh, this could be survivorship bias, where just because it worked for me doesn't mean it'll work for someone else. These people aren't 6 foot blonde from Berkshire. Maybe it won't work.
Yeah.
Then we have a little Discord subset that says post your wins. And every time I read those, it invigorates me to become more confident to help other people. It makes me more authoritative with the things that I say, because I'm looking at the evidence of it actually working. And content for me helped me so much that I didn't build the following because I was confident. I was confident because I built the following. Yes. It's a real chicken and egg scenario.
Yeah. It's such a good reframe. And actually, I'd love to, I think like one of my obsessions at the minute is the kind of negativity and creativity. And I think if you actually think about the most creative people of all time, they've got like a really abhorrent negative voice in their head where they're looking at their creative work and they're thinking that's shit. And I think that's almost like negativity is like progressive overload for amazing creativity, you know.
I'm happy moaning. I love moaning.
Yeah.
My friends and even people I work with, they go, you fucking love moaning. I say, hey guys, I know I'm about to be negative for a few minutes, but I enjoy this, let me get it out.
Yeah.
I completely agree with what you say. The constant, I think you almost need to be consistently really disappointed with your best efforts.
Yes.
It's a weird paradoxical mind fuck that you will create something amazing and then the second it goes out, straight away you bury it, let's do it better. I think it's the same. I get this probably from video games.
Yeah.
Where I would, let's say, playing Call of Duty. I think my best ever game was like 31 kills, 3 deaths. And then the second I won, rather than going, that was impressive, I go, cool, imagine doing 33 kills, no deaths.
Yes.
And straight away you suppress your achievements because you think it might nullify your ambitions to do better.
It's almost, you know, if you heard of Nassim Taleb's barbell strategy, when you like put two opposing things, you take two extreme positions.
No.
So you have like, he talks about it in like an investment. It starts as an investment strategy, so you'd have like a load of low risk. You'd put on that side of the barbell loads of low risk investments like bonds and just. I'm not a finance guy at all, but shit like that. And then you'd balance that with loads and loads of high risk stuff. But because it's two extreme positions, it creates this tension and creates a barbell, which is a really strong strategy. And I think with creative work, you almost have this kind of supreme confidence that. I can fucking do anything, and say the Beatles. Have you seen the Beatles documentary when they about them creating the Get Back documentary? No. Sick. So they basically think we've got 10 days to write this amazing album, supreme confidence, but then they've got supreme negativity and self-doubt, which is this is shit. The whole thing, it's like a 3-hour documentary. John Lennon's looking at the thing going, this is shit, and then they write Hey Jude. But because they've got the confidence to create something really, really good, but the self-doubt to constantly look at the work and moan and say, this is not good. And I think it's this kind of virtuous circle of, as I say, negativity is kind of like progressive overload for creativity. It forces you to get better at the pursuit of the creative craft. That makes sense?
Yeah, there is a negative feedback loop with this when you introduce kids, as I've found out. So I had my son born 3-4 months ago.
Yep.
And I would definitely prop my productivity with some kind of negative self-talk. I've kind of pretty sure I've got some form of ADHD. I know it's trendy. I actually went to get a psych evaluation and they said, oh, you've got anxiety as well. I was like, fuck, that's not cool. I just wanted the cool one.
Yeah.
I never wanted
the
meds.
one you can talk about at a bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or on a date.
But it was great actually, because the time I tried therapy a few months before, hated it.
Why did you hate it?
I just didn't vibe it. I was like, I just didn't enjoy it. And it was costing a lot of money.
Was that just because you didn't like get on with the therapist, or was it just, because it's interesting, someone like, you're super self-aware and you write these amazing books. It's interesting how you didn't jive with therapy.
I didn't enjoy the whole process. I don't really like talking about my emotions, to be
fair.
Yeah. I'd rather not. I'd just rather lump it. And I know that is considered negative, but it's some form of coping mechanism. And I just didn't vibe it. So then the psych evaluation I had for ADHD, I've never felt so seen in my life. And I was kind of I would explain a little bit about how I am. Then she tells me some of the reasons as to why it is. So then I'd tell her a little bit more. And then before I knew it, I was really sharing some of the most idiosyncratic things that I do on a daily basis. And rather than being seen with judgment, it was seen with reason. And I left that and went back to my missus, my partner, my business partner. And I said to them, like, thank you. I've never said thanks to them before. My chaotic mind, my lack of organization, my terrible short-term memory, all of these things that I've actually been putting on people around me. I've never even thanked them before. Same way that Luke, my manager today, will be like, here's the address, 2 p.m. Get here. This is like, here are some of the talking. Like, he literally does so much of my thinking for me because he knows where my weak spots are. My missus knows that when I tell her, oh, I've got a haircut on Friday at 1 p.m., I'm not just telling her, I'm asking her to remind me. So she in the morning goes, oh, you got your haircut later? And I go, thank you so much. I thought it was on Friday. She's like, it is Friday. Oh, this is where I have those weaknesses. But one thing we did discover with the psychologist was this tendency to create a really, what would you call it? I suppose anxiety is creating a negative outlook on the future. But I quite like that because it motivates me in the short term. So rather than someone going, I should get my work.
So say that again. Negativity.
I would say anxiety and maybe even depression in some realms is perceiving a negative outlook of the future.
Yep.
That's why I think fertility rates are lower than ever because there's never been so much of a negative outlook on the future. Mm-hmm. So I don't actually think it is sperm counts and IVF treatments as much as we think. I think it's a subconscious decision to not procreate because of potentially a thought process and a prediction that the future is going to be dire. So if you knew that the economy was growing and that wages and opportunity were getting better, you go, oh yeah, pop a couple out, let them live good. But when all you get exposed to is news, negativity and war and all of this, we're running out of this and running out of that, you kind of think, oh, I might as well just enjoy myself and not have kids.
Yeah.
So one of my productivity mechanisms was definitely for a long time creating a catastrophic vision of the future. So it was more so, if you don't finish your work tasks, you're not going to make any sales. If you're not going to make any sales, you're not going to earn any money. If you don't earn any money, you're going to lose the house. If you lose your house, you're moving back in with your parents. And this kind of negative self-talk would G me up. I'll be like, I'm going for a nap. And I'll be like, no, you're not. Get a couple of these down here. Do some work. At my desk, 9 p.m. And then I can kind of fully switch off and relax. But then when I had kids, or when I had my first child, suddenly there was something more important than my productivity. But I was using my productivity to pin up how well I felt about each day. So it's not that I've really, it's just...
So how well you felt each day is post having your son, right?
Yeah, now 45 minutes getting a burp out. And I might have just started sitting down to get into the Discord, might have just got into my emails. And then you change in a nappy. And then I'm having to really reconstruct in my mind that, look, it's okay if you're not productive for a week, maybe even a month. Even now, the past month, I've lived out a suitcase on the floor at my parents' house. And it's crazy. Even my parents are really mindful of their energy bills. So every time I go in a room, it's freezing. The radiator's been turned off. They've got like a hot water immersion heater. So it needs to be turned on to get hot water for the showers. But it needs to warm up for like an hour. So there's so many things. I'm like waking up at 5 a.m. The baby wakes me up. I'm like, that's great. I can go put the hot water immersion heater on. I've said to my parents as well, I was like, look, next time I get a big pay slip, let me sort your hot water out. One of these things. So it's kind of stressful being at home. I've not created any new social media content really in a month. I've not seen my videographer. I've been doing some amazing things like podcasts just like this. I've been doing all kinds of different things. But I've then had to really say to myself, like, snap the fuck out of it. This isn't the end of the world. It's 1 month. Like you said before about progressive overload, even training less and working less can set you up to a really good productive series in the next few weeks and months. So that coping mechanism of using negativity to fuel ambition and creativity comes to a slump when suddenly you end up without the productivity and just the negativity. So it's something that I'm working.
So yeah, that's so, because I think the more I'm reflecting on that is I think a lot of...
Have you got kids?
No, I haven't got kids, but like I'm just 30. But I'm using the... a lot of the creative negative kind of voice in my head, which is, people saying you're not good enough, the usual fucking suspects that crop up, like, oh, you're a fucking, idiot. I'm like, well, fuck this, let's go. And I'll work and I'll work and I'll work. And I get to a point where I've done enough, not necessarily tasks. I don't see it like that, but I've done it enough that I can it kind of dissipates that voice in my head. And I think another thing which would be loved to explore with you is, I'm trying to not look at... I think you can get dopamine... You can choose where you get your dopamine from. And especially with content, you can either get it from the actual process of doing the work, or you can go and get it from something outside your control, aka the views. But that, if you do a video that you spend ages on and it does shit, then you're just gonna... If you've got that that voice in your head that calls you a piece of shit, it's gonna run rampant. And one thing I'm trying to do now in terms of that, a bit like a productivity slump, is as you said, you can't because of your situation now. You've got all the negative, but you don't have the barbell to do the productive things. So your kind of barbell's like that. I'm trying to work out this barbell here of like, I've got to this negative voice and this dopamine that I'm chasing, but where do I get it from? Like, how do you do that delicate dance?
Yeah, it's interesting. I never realized that I wasn't sure the last few years if I had an incessant need for attention, which could be some coping mechanism from, I don't know, early childhood, whatever.
Yeah.
I had a great childhood. I don't know why that would be the case. Or it's like a dopamine chasing thing. And then looking back at how much I love video games, Age of Empires, Call of Duty, whatever it was, I think it's probably a dopamine reward system where the content was just a part to play in that. That's why I get really impatient where, say I would film something really good with my mates, I want it out the same day. So even in Australia, I film at 10 and 11. I want the edit by 4 or 5 p.m. because I want to post it and see how well it does. We even get to the point where I will post it at a suboptimal time just so when I wake up in the morning, I have some analytics to look at. The idea of, this is where people's organization come in. They go, oh, we'll release this in 2 weeks. I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? I'm like, I want it out tomorrow. They're like, oh, you just released one yesterday. Get it out tomorrow. So I'm definitely guilty of that as well. 100%. I want to put things out. And one thing I like is, with this business, working with Chris, very organized. He's the organized party. I'm the chaotic one. So Chris we lost sleep over the fact whether or not there should be a dash between research and backed. And I was on a call. This was like a half-hour discussion. And Chris was adamant. He saw it in copy that the dash wasn't there. He wanted heads to roll from that. Whereas I'm the kind of person sat there on the call just glazing over my eyes. I'm like, I'm not listening. Chris will message me going, I need your opinion on something in the Slack channel about a new flavor or product development, and I'll reply thinking, oh shit, yeah. And he'll go, that was from a month ago. You replied to a message from a month ago. Yeah. But then on the flip side of that, we'll get some feedback on the creatives that we need. People will go to bed and they'll wake up to 3 videos already edited, already done, already good to go. Because I'm on the inverted time zone, I kind of wait for them to go to bed at 10 a.m. and I know they're waking up at 5 p.m. So I want everything done by then. I'll stand over my videographer's shoulder and I'll be like, come on, mate, let's do this, chop here, let's move this. So I love that side of delivering in a short-term period. But again, if you gave me 10 things to do, you'll get none. But if you give me one thing to do, I'll do it really well the same day. Yes. Again, where people can mismanage me by giving me too much. But even often I'll say to people, okay, give me a brief of the task. Let me know the audience we want and let me know what you want them to do. I just need those things. I don't want a script. I don't want to add creative. Just tell me what and where to do it.
So what are the 3 things?
So tell me what is the kind of idea of the content. What do you want to do? Do we want to promote the drink? Do we want to expand into a territory? Do we want to notify a territory we're restocked? Who's the audience? Are they existing customers? Are they previous customers? Are they people that have never seen the drink before? And where do you want me to send them? Do you want me to send them to the website? Do you want me to send them to a sign-up page? Do you want me to sign them to a squeeze page or try and get their contact information? That's really where I enjoy the strategy. And implementing things like chatbots, where just doing a post and saying click the link in a bio, I think is kind of losing its strength. But instead saying DM me the word restock or comment the word restock, then sending someone a little message going, hey guys, appreciate you. This project's really important. I'm really looking forward to growing this. This could be massive. To get your next case, use this link below, little PS in that message, just to let you know if you didn't like the taste or you think I've not delivered on any of my promises, here's my personal email address. If you buy 12 cans today, I'll refund the other 11 if you don't like it. You get to give someone so much more in an area that they have personalized conversations that then they know if they click the link and they buy, they can come back to that message from you and it's got your personal email address.
That's that many chat thing, isn't it? Or that's one arm of it. Because I want to, selfishly, like we've just tried to implement that with the clips we're putting out on socials, right?
To DM them to get the full episode.
Yeah. Like, how would you be using chatbots if you were me to grow the audience, or is that?
So the first thing you can say is DM me the word, let's say James for this episode. Yeah. I'll give you a link, so when you're ready, you can watch the episode. Even the wording of that means that you're considerate that they might not be in the right mindset and mind. Like, so here's another thing that people make a mistake on YouTube is, I would often try and get my Instagram following to go watch my YouTube because my Instagram following was 1,000 times bigger. But the problem with this is, let's say I'm at the train station on the way to this podcast. My train's coming in 4 minutes. I might be just doom scrolling away, just trying to kill time until the train comes. I then see my story. My story says, hey, click this video, and it's a 12-minute video. I then get on the train. Then when I get on the train, I'm going to get my laptop out and do emails. So even only a few minutes into that 12-minute video, I click off and I never return. YouTube will then go, this guy got bored at 3 minutes in, therefore this video is not that great. So if you're sending people from an audience where they're having a shit, waiting for the date they're on to go have a piss, they're waiting for a train, or they're in their car at a railway crossing where they're just checking their phone illegally, if they're coming to a YouTube video and not sitting for a distance or length of time that's going to be congruent with good quality of that video, you're sending suboptimal traffic to places. It's similar to having a brewery and trying to send alcoholics in here. You know, you're sending the wrong people in. They're not going to buy much. And if they do have a 0%er, they're probably only going to have one before leaving. Really, you'd be better off sending alcoholics in here.
Yeah.
Not real advice. Yeah. So sometimes we're sending a suboptimal person towards a full length episode, which then, even if 1,000 people go and the average view duration on a 1 hour episode is only 2 minutes, it's not going to score highly in the algorithm.
Yes. Okay.
So one, I think when you send people the episodes, just be mindful that it might not be the right time for them. Or you could say, here's the link, come back when you're ready. You could also send them a preview clip. And this is what Chris Williamson does really well. And so I was on a podcast yesterday where they do shorts and they do the full episodes. But what Chris does incredibly well is he chooses one clip from the podcast to spearhead it and releases it a day before the full episode. So if you were to say, what's easier to sell and package, a 90-minute conversation or 10 minutes from our conversation, you could then go through this whole entire episode and go, this 10 minutes was fire. Here's the packaging for it. We're going to release that a day before the full episode so that people don't just click on a very clickable, well-packaged clip. They finish the whole clip because it's 10 minutes and it makes them leaving wanting more. That then sets up the full episode drop. People have already bought in and invested. It's like they've already tried your product and they like what they had. It makes them excited for it. Case in point, Feeding the Baby 2 days ago, Ben Shapiro, Chris Williamson. I go, sick. This will be a good chat. Oh, it's only 10 minutes. I'll watch it. The 10 minutes was pure fire. Last night when I get in bed, I already know that I'm going to click off Joe Rogan and go to Chris Williamson and start the Ben Shapiro episode. So you can spearhead a longer format video with just a small part of that. And if you look at Chris's best performing podcasts, you go to YouTube, then popular, you have full episode, 10-minute clip, full episode, 10-minute clip. So his David Goggins, maybe 8-minute, 10-minute clip has got maybe 8 million views. So he would have made not just maybe 10, 15, 20,000 pounds from that clip. He's then siphoned millions of people that want to go watch the full episode.
Yeah, I love it. It's almost like you're, again, another way you approach content is with huge amounts of empathy as to what people are literally doing and thinking about that. Like, I haven't even thought about it. It's like, if someone's getting on the train and they're doom scrolling, it's just not the right time. And then, as you say, if they hop onto that clip and then, I got on the train up here today, like, I was fucking all over the shop. 1 minute I was on Slack. I tried to read a book, like it was just a cataclysmic and ADHD fuckfest. I mean, exactly. It was all over the shop. But
so then, if I leave a video to just simmer, it will get less views in the onset, but it's not the same algorithm where we want to get loads of views really fast. We want the people that click and watch that video to be your best fans that are going to sit through it. You want people that maybe in 3 days' time are going to download it for a flight. You want people that are in the right viewing mindset to do it. Also, when people are browsing on YouTube, the duration of the video is a part in their determination to whether they click or not. If you give them the link and they go straight to the video, then see the video is too long and leave, you're just destroying your own score on that. So it's one of those things where we just don't want to send a subprime audience to it. And sometimes it takes, and again, let's say you're sending people from Instagram, they could be the wrong people for that. So if you just leave that video to simmer, YouTube will go, okay, cool. These people from these backgrounds are enjoying it and watching it more. Let's show it to more people like those. Where it goes, these people are actually coming. Maybe men start watching it and leave straight away, but women come and they're really interested because it could be a video on menopause. Then over time, YouTube's going to go, cool. Women that are between 40 and 55 seem to be staying longer. Let's show it to more women between 40 and 55. If you just spam people to go towards a video, sometimes you can get people that aren't right for it. And that's going to make it incredibly difficult for YouTube to find the right people for it, which is what they want to do. YouTube wants your video to get 1 billion views, but the only thing stopping it is the quality level of that video. Because YouTube's sharing the monetization with you. For every dollar you make, they're making $1. So it's in the real good mindset shift for me was every social media platform wants everyone to watch your video. but you have to not only make it good enough, you have to package it well enough. And sometimes that velocity, I'll leave a video a week or two sometimes before checking in on its performance.
So it's almost again, right at the beginning of the conversation, we said that attention bit, and that's how you package it with the thumbnail. Then I suppose when we're getting more in terms of getting people to the main episode, you're having that link, that 10-minute clip, whatever, the fire clip. You're using ManyChat to then send that to people and you're almost saying, look, listen to this when you're ready, i.e. not fucking around on a train. They listen to that, they're hooked, and then that will lead them to the full episode.
Imagine, who would you say is one of the most influential people that Rory Sutherland.
Yeah.
You had him on, right?
Yeah, like 4 times. He's coming on again in 2 weeks.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's a fucking...
I was showing my mum and dad him last night.
Yeah, he's amazing.
They were like, oh, what's this podcast tomorrow? I was like, Mum, Dad, Rory Sutherland's been on it. And they're like, who's that? I'm like, I'll fucking show you who it is.
Yeah.
So for instance, Chris will take the clips of him saying why you want an air fryer wife. And in that 1 minute, because before I know who Rory Sutherland is, I'd never watched that. And actually, it was the short that introduced me to Rory. It was a 10-minute video that made me go, fuck me, this guy knows his shit. And it also made me realize there's a lot of value I can get from that. The moment the full episode comes out, I'm in. But if Chris had just released the full episode, I wouldn't have watched it.
With you. It's so interesting. We had a clip go out of him saying, because I've got an Irish brand that I used to do a bit of work with, and they said there was no curry houses in Ireland, in Dublin. And I basically said that to Rory, and he was like, "Oh, no, I found one in the West Key, like, or something." And he goes, "And funnily enough, all they did was potatoes." And the amount of beef I got on there, being like, "You Brits, like, one, we don't call them curry houses, we call them Indian restaurants, and there's fucking loads in Dublin." But it's absolutely gone ballistic because it's quite controversial. But he's just sat there. I think he's an absolute. He's an absolute genius. How did you? And one thing again in your book, you talk a lot about, or in the confidence book at least, about Daniel Kahneman, who Rory's obsessed with, who's like sort of the founding father of behavioural economics. And I think one of my obsessions is kind of creative partnerships. And I think he had the guy, it was Amos Tversky, who was the guy he wrote that book with, but then Amos died. And then Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Peace Prize, but he'd already died, and there was a huge amounts of conflict and tension in that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there was a guy called Amos basically who was doing it. They were like a partnership, and they came up with all these kind of biases and stuff. Amos died. Daniel devoted the Nobel Peace Prize, I think, or Nobel Prize to him. But there was this tension, same again back to the Beatles, McCarthy, Lennon, there's constant tension in these partnerships. I'd love to get into this with you and Chris. Like how I think the first place to start is, how is your sort of curiosity, the texture of your curiosity, like different? And then how, I know you talked about order and chaos, like how does it kind of rub up against each other? Do you know what I mean?
So it's like Luke is the gatekeeper between us, my manager.
Yeah. He's I've been speaking to for about a year. Yeah.
He's there on one side, and he will just keep the oil between the cogs, let's say, because It's not that Chris and I don't get on. We get on very well, but sometimes we will definitely see things differently. And Chris might, be really interested in the detail, and I'm like, this isn't the most important part, but to him it is. And to me, it's the creative or the framing or how we talk in content. So for instance, the other day, the team said, right, I'm coming into London. I said, let's give out new tonics. Bring 300 cans and we give them out at King's Cross. And they were like, okay, maybe we could do this. I was like, no, just keep the camera rolling. I'm just going to give out 300 cans. Then we went through to do a 2-hour TikTok shop live. And they're like, okay, maybe we could do this. I was like, no, we'll just go with it. I said, let me see the comments and we'll have fun for 2 hours. And they said, this is so much different to working with Chris. With Chris, it's where we are at this time, what we're doing, what we're saying. We need it scripted. We need a teleprompter. Let's do this. And it works very well for him. But to me, that just seems too organized. I want to go have fun with people. We set up shop outside a coffee shop. And as people are going in, I'm like, oh, you don't want that. Have a can of this. And I much prefer the off-the-cuff natural stuff. Same way that Chris, I believe, goes into his podcasts premeditated with what clips he's going to get from it. So
really?
I think every single clip you have is on his iPad. So I believe the strategist will go, I think this title will do well. To get this title to perform, we need to ask this question.
That's mad. Yeah.
Super strategized. Whereas me, I'll do a podcast with my mates and randomly on the way to the podcast buy like a really hot chip and be like, oh, who's eating this then? And like dying from the hot chip. To me, that's entertainment. Whereas to Chris, it might be really asking a very intricate question. But where we align so much is we're two British guys. I hate the term like self-made, but Chris had a podcast that no one listened to for years. I had a fitness social media account that barely anyone paid attention to for years. It took me 4 years to get to 10K, another 4 years to hit 1 million. And both of what we did was very much the same. Chris came to my events. I've been on his podcast since 2018. And we both kind of emerged through our own means. So we're both right in our own respects. Bringing those together it's been very fun at the same time, but I wouldn't even say challenging. I quite like it, where I've actually been the decision maker in everything that I've done so far. And actually it gets to the point where I say to Chris, the reason I'm not active in the Slack is I'm going to give you creative control over this because you're better than me at this. So where it is between the research backed dash, I'm not commenting because I know you know the right answer. And then when it comes to creatives, or actually, interestingly enough, a lot of the stuff I was doing for the brand was using chatbots. And for chatbots at the time, I don't think you can now, you can't collab posts. So to use you choose either to collab the post or to have the automation. You can't have both. So maybe 5 new tonic posts in a row were all on my own page, not collabed. So Luke messages me, screenshots the homepage and goes, "This looks very much like Chris's drink. I can't see your face here." And I knew that was passive aggressive. So as he goes to sleep, I'm like, right, you fucking wanker. So I go there to the gym and we create this creative where I pull up in my car and I bought an Audi R6, which I love. Best car in the world. Don't know if you're into cars that much, but that was the hook. And I said, I start my day pretty much the same day by getting caffeine in, whether it's a cup of coffee, a can of White Monster, or a new tonic. And the scenes were pulling up in the car, me taking out the new tonic, me taking out the coffee, me taking out the White Monster. So this meant that I had to go to a petrol station, get the White Monster, go to a coffee shop, get the coffee, go to the gym, get this. I had to get in and out the car for every single shot with that. Then we had to drive around with me sipping each one. I had about 600 milligrams of caffeine this morning. But I knew that creative could be important. And there's another shot in it where I'm walking to the car, then away from the car. And I talk about mental health, where actually, if I don't train in a day, I'm fine. If I don't eat well in a day, I'm fine. But if I'm not productive in a day, I'm fucking hell to be around. And I've come to realize that being productive on a day is probably the thing that's most sacred to me. So I made that point in the video and I said, whether or not you have a coffee, this product, or a White Monster, you'll pretty much get the same benefits. But if you want to get this, comment the word restart, blah, blah, blah. And within 24 hours, it did 1 million views. And that was my way of being like, fuck you to you guys in there. But it was constructive.
Yes.
Then again, Chris was moaning at me for not using the Slack, so I made that a video. I said, hey guys, please buy this drink so Chris Williamson will stop abusing me for not reading the Slack messages. And then people in the comments like, oh, classic Chris. We're almost creating beef between us because then it looks good as well on the front end. So having two founders that are at each other can also potentially benefit the brand. But if I presented that to Chris and go, let's fall out, he'd be like, why? Whereas if I said that to Luke, he goes, brilliant, beef and rappers.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to, is that tension, and thanks for kind of detailing that, because I think it is this, in any formidable and forceful creative partnership, there is just this rubbing up against, I think Will Storr talks about this in The Status Game, where he talks about how even though it was always Lennon McCartney and at every record label, even after John Lennon fucking died, Paul McCartney would try and make it McCartney-Lennon. That just one word switching around, it just shows, even though he passed away, there's that creative sort of tension and ego in there. How does... So you're kind of more the chaos and the kind of off-the-cuff creativity. He's strategy. How does living in... you being an Australian, him in America, because I think one of the things I think you guys have done really well between both of you've kind of been like a kind of, the UK is just so fucking quite sardonic and just a bit like, oh, ambition's squelched here, right? I think you guys have really kind of like the Anglo-Saxon high agency, Antidote. You've basically said, look, if you fucking put your mind to something, you can go and do whatever the fuck you want to do. Whereas obviously in America, ambition is like go-getters. Whereas I think here it's a bit like, if people are trying to really be ambitious. It's the tall poppy syndrome thing. How has being in Australia versus the US, like, what's that tension like in terms of building a brand?
Just the time differences on the calls. And to preface what we said before, actually what's great is I still learn from Chris, although I go at him all the time. So when we did our tour in America last year, one night he just got smashed and let his hair down. I'm pretty sure a guy in the toilets was like, "Oh, I like your podcast." And he was like, "Cool." Just took the guy's vape and just went. And I was like, "Chris, this is my kind of guy." So I think I was helping Chris relax his shoulders a bit. But then recently I listened to a podcast I did 2 weeks ago and I said the word "like" way too many times. So I've now reached out to Chris's speech coach to start getting lessons to help me speak better. Chris doesn't he doesn't and he doesn't say "like." And there is so much methodic detail behind the scenes that people don't see. And
such as?
He has a speech coach. I'm pretty sure he has someone that helps him protect his voice. So if his voice is crackling from doing live events, he gets given like a prescription of ginger, honey, all of these things. He's very protective of his energy. Even we're in Vegas. I'm like, bro, strawberry daiquiri, we're going out. And then 7 p.m, his AirPods go in, he's off to his room, stays at home. I feel like he's got the weight of his world on his shoulders just through how successful he is becoming, which I think could be very difficult. So although I quite like the banter between us of being slightly different, I still need to take my hat off to him a lot of the times because the way he raises the bar with his intellect and approach to business is sometimes I'm like, oh, fuck, this is impressive. So as much as I love to poke holes in his approach, at the same time I'm also, when you rub alongside someone who's doing better than you, I definitely feel that. And especially when I see some of the numbers that he gets, not only his downloads, not only his views, but some of the financial ones, I'm like, fair play, mate.
Yeah.
As far as territory, we did have a bit of a fight. And again, some people, when they talk about their product, try and make it amazing. I love saying on podcasts, we have 3 flavors and this is the third best. Like, you have to have the ugly sibling of the pack.
Yeah.
Although I have shat so much on this as a flavor, I had one just then as we started. I went, I've really missed that. I think that if it was just the duality in flavors, I would miss this a lot. And we were supposed to launch Australia, UK, America. Now, Australia is probably a little hybrid between UK attitude and America, or probably UK economic state and American attitude. I think their attitude is good. I think the economy is good, but the attitude can be semi-relaxed. I'll say relaxed because if you grow up on a beach in an amazing, safe neighborhood, you haven't got that much to work for in life.
Yes. I listened to a Tyler Cohen podcast with this Aussie guy. Fucking so interesting. And he was basically saying how, I think Tyler Cohen was saying, why is Australia, even though, as you say, we've got similar kind of demographic, wealth, enough people, enough good universities there, why are there not enough startups and super successful founders there? And kind of what he was saying is almost like, mate, the weather's too good. Whereas you go to the UK, the weather's shit, and it's like, he literally blamed it on the weather. He's basically like, in New York, if you go to these cities where the weather's shit and it's cold, like the level of graft kind of goes up through the roof, and ambition.
I'll answer your question in a second, but the beautiful thing, probably the best lesson, what helped me with the Real Second Not a Life Coach book was when I was writing it, I was in a cafe, I'm in Bondi, and I can see Bondi Beach. Been to Australia?
Yeah, when I was a little kid, ages, yeah.
You must go back.
Yeah.
It's fucking miles away, but it's amazing. And Bondi Beach is there. So I'd wake up and it'd be something real trivial. Me and my friend, in the UK, I don't give a fuck if it's your birthday. If we're going for a dinner, cool. I have to come into London, put jeans on, it's a pain in the ass. In Australia, we'd get a message. We're meeting at 6 a.m. on the beach. It's Cam's birthday. One of the girls will bring a cake. Suddenly, you and all your mates are meeting at 5:45. You're getting out of bed at the crack of dawn. Sun's coming up, the water's cold, you go for a swim, then all of you wrap your towels around, you get a coffee. It's now 6:30 in the morning. I've done more wholesome shit before I would even have usually woken up. I go home, get dressed, get ready for the day, and I'm sat there on my laptop in a cafe looking at Bondi Beach thinking, I'm fucking happier now than I've been from, half the shit I've done in my life. But then I'd look at the girls working in the cafe and I'd be like, fuck, there's 3 hot chicks here and the dude is pretty good looking as well. What the fuck are you doing in a cafe? Because no offense to Britain, but you go to a Pret, a Costa, a Nero, you just got miserable people. And, no one in there is really loving their life. But the people in here, I'm getting eggs on sourdough. They're happy. I'm like, how's your day? Yeah, great. And I'm trying to fathom and understand why there's good looking young people in a cafe. And I observe them for a bit and I realize they're working 6 a.m, probably see the sunrise on the way into work, probably till about 2 p.m. They're getting better wages in Australia than they are here. They're clocking off, going to walk their dog, go meet their mates on the beach for sundown, have a couple bottles of cider, maybe have some food from somewhere local, go to bed, repeat. And I was like, shit, if they did that for the next 50 years, they'd have a better life than most people. Whereas you couldn't say the same for people in British culture. Someone could be living in, Norfolk, or could be living in, Sunderland. They're not going to wake up 6 a.m, work at a Pret till 2 p.m, go walk the dog. Well, they might do, but I just don't see that happening so much. So it really got me to slow down a bit, where my rent in Bondi was £150 a week. We do things weekly. So for £600 a month, I was living by the most iconic beach in the world with 2 lads. It was great. Bills weren't expensive. My overheads, my business was doing quite well at the time. I kind of sat back and went, I don't need to do any better. I could just live here as a bachelor into my 50s. Loads of hot girls in Bondi. I'll go surf. I'll learn to surf, pick up girls at the beach. Done. It's not quite how my life went, but that relaxation to think, oh, this is great, really helped me with every part of my life. And again, I've told this story a few times. I moaned to Luke a few weeks ago. I was watching a YouTuber and he had a Lamborghini Urus. And I like him, but I felt a little bit of resentment. So I messaged Luke. I go, mate, we've done 3 books. We've done several tours. We've done all this. I go, why haven't we got Uruses? He goes, go buy one if you want. I said, no. Because if I did, it would hurt. I'll buy it and be like, ugh. And he goes, oh, well, I'll tell you what, James, why don't you move to New York or move to London and start doing full work days, and you'll probably afford one within a year. Or he goes, or you can fuck off to your perfect little life on the beach and keep doing what you're doing. And I was like, oh shit, I needed that. The work-life balance in Australia, having the weather, living on the beach, even though I'm so far away, I'm doing so many podcasts on this run at the moment because there's nothing to fucking do there. There's maybe 1 or 2 podcasts in Australia which never really get that much momentum because there's no one coming through Australia. It's so far removed from everywhere. Even if everyone starts nuking each other and no terrorist is coming to Australia. They don't want to deal with the jet lag. So it's one of those things that you just removed away from everything. You're kind of zoned out. And that's helped me with I'm still ambitious. I still want to accomplish things. But then I kind of think to myself, if I pay down the mortgage, we have a shop called Bunnings. It's like Sainsbury's Homebase, but bigger and better. And on
Sainsbury's and Homebase?
No, like Homebase. Is it Homebase by Sainsbury's or is it no?
No, Homebase is the where you get.
Cool. Homebase. Call it Homebase. Yeah. For some reason I thought it was Sainsbury's Homebase. Yeah. Maybe there's one near me like that. So it's called Bunnings, and on a Saturday they have a little barbecue out front. They have a little sausage sizzle. They give you a little sausage and a bit of bread. It's like a rite of passage in Australia. But whenever I go into Bunnings, whether I'm getting a shovel or a new hose for the garden, the people in there are so fucking happy. The dudes in there are like 65, probably semi-retired, joking around with the lads. Oh yeah, I'll take you to the power tools section. And sometimes I go into Bunnings and I think, you motherfuckers are happier than me. You guys are happy as shit. Because when you're working in business, sometimes you spend a lot of time on your own. And I was like, do you know what? I'll pay down the mortgage. And then one day, if I can't be fucked to this, I'm just going to go work in Bunnings. And I'm just going to be as happy as these old boys. I'm going to be pulling pranks on people that work there, having banter with people that come in. And I think because you've got the sun, blue skies, it's pretty much summer for 3-4 months, spring for 2.5 months either side. Then winter is like 6 to 8 weeks of coldness. But even cold for us is 6 degrees and it gets to 15 to 18 during the day. Start the day with a woolly hat and a hoodie. Midday, you're in a t-shirt. By the end of the day, it's the same. But the one thing I really didn't expect, where every time I come back, is how continually grey it is here. At least in Australia, when it rains, it fucking rains and it floods. When it's cold, it's fucking cold. But there's no grey, drizzly wetness that goes on for days on end. If you have a shit day's weather, the sun's out the next day. Whereas in the UK, I haven't even seen it rain, but it's just wet all the time. Yeah. And it starts to drag on your how you're feeling about yourself, how your day's going. And it kind of ruined me for life. After living there for a year, I don't think I could ever live anywhere that didn't have blue skies.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So is it John Hegarty who created Saatchi, and he's got a great little book on creativity. He says if you want to go and be creative, go to where you have to go somewhere with bad weather. And he basically said the weather's so bad that it sort of forces you inwards. And if you think about it, all the best music is from up north. Like the Oasis, Stone Roses, the Beatles. I really believe there's something in like the bad weather being good for creativity in some respects.
I did a thread. I'm fucking around with Threads at the moment. I feel like it might be making a little comeback. Not to ever the size of LinkedIn or anything else, but I think if I'm going to make some text-based content, let's put it in different places and see where it performs. It's just a copy-paste job. But on Threads, I went, UK's grim, the weather's shit, the taxes are high, the crime's out of control. It's just grim here. And then under it, I went, which is probably why it produces so many extraordinary people, because the British men do well when they get to Oz, right? We get there, the Aussie men, they're bigger than us, more handsome, more muscular, better tanned, and they got cool tattoos, but they got no chat. Because English guys, we've always struggled. We're a bit uglier, a bit fatter. We drink more lager, and often our teeth are worse. So we have to create good chat.
Mate, have you been to the Devonshire since you've been over here? The pub that everyone's on about in Soho.
No.
There's a new pub called the Devonshire in Soho, and it's literally it's booted off. Like it's unreal, and it's. But I was speaking to the founder Osh, who's talking about Ireland. The weather in Ireland's fucking even worse than here.
Yeah.
And they say crack as in CRAIC, yeah, like crack. And he was basically saying, and I was like, why some of the best novelists of all times, James Joyce, Oscar Wilde, all the best storytellers, or lots of them are from fucking Ireland. I was like, why the Irish, they're such bubbly people. And he's like, because the weather's so shit, we go into a pub and we just want good crack, we want chat. And I think it links to your point about extraordinary people. And what you said, the weather's shit, and as you go to Australia and you're just like...
You're not doing anything productive on the beach.
Yeah.
You go down there, you take a book, and then you go, oh, close my eyes for a bit. Then you get a bit of a tan.
Yeah.
But like, my life in Australia, I wake up, take the dog for a walk. I'm walking up and down like a nice beach, get a coffee, come home, and then I'll sit at my desk for 2 hours, drink probably 2-3 cans of this, and then get all my work done. I'll train from 10 till 12, come home, have a little sleep. Hopefully the baby's asleep. Middle of the afternoon, I'll do any more admin. But then as 5-6 p.m. comes around, my day's kind of wrapping up. I might, if I have a nap, I'll look at my missus. I'll be like, let's go for a little swim. We live opposite where the beach is. And I moved an hour south of Sydney where I could actually afford to live close to the beach. Because if you're in Bondi, Bronte, anything like that, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then we're like having food in the evening. And I genuinely think to myself, I could just relive this day every day forever. I never felt like that in the UK. But then you do get into this kind of relaxed culture. But what I do love is I can come back to the UK where it's manic, it's chaos, it's podcasts, it's meetings.
Do you think you could have built what you've built if you'd started in Australia?
I'm not sure, because what I didn't expect to happen was when I moved to Bondi, I started doing live videos on my balcony and I'd post content every day. I never realized that the background was what maybe was making people watch. So you got grim weather here. There's an English guy in Australia at the beach with blue skies and birds chirping. I never realized that the life I had, albeit only £150 a week rent life, was aspirational. There were so many people that would go, oh, I'd love to go to Australia. I'd love to see Bondi Beach. When they were watching my stories, I actually don't think they're invested in my brand. They're invested in my life. Because when I was younger, I had a much more interesting life. I even looked at my story views a few months ago. I was like, oh, before the baby, they were tanking. And I was like, there's nothing to see here. I'm just living fucking Groundhog Day with my dog and my missus. But then when I was in Bondi, we were doing cool shit, going to new beaches, going to new places, swimming here, recommending restaurants. And even people in the UK, even if they had no plans to go to Oz, they were taking it in. Oh, there's a beach called Bronte. Oh, there's a coastal. Oh, there's this. And I think that meant that when they were to go to Australia, I would love to know the amount of PTs that have moved there to kind of emulate the same thing.
Yeah.
Fitness culture there is a lot denser. Here, when I was in a PT in Bracknell, there were 5 or 6 PTs. I went to a same size gym in Oz, there were 32 PTs.
Yeah. What's the, as I said, it's that high, I think it's like the high agency antidote to kind of a somewhat lethargic culture over here. I think it's actually Chris who says this. He goes, the only way to understand your culture is by being in another culture, which I think is a really good point. And I think, who did I have on the pod she lived in, founder of Rude Health, which is they do like oat milks and shit like that. She'd spent a lot... shit like that. Sorry, that's a bit... Yeah, I probably reframe that.
No.
They did really good granolas. But she lived in Japan, and she was like, from living in Japan, I actually really understood the UK. So, and you spent a lot of time in the States as well. I think you did that, was it a world tour?
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to... We've sort of talked about the flavor of ambition in Australia, flavor of ambition in the UK. If we then go on to the other side, which is America, where it's like, let's fucking go, baby. You know what I mean? Like, what's that like? And I suppose the question is like, what has the world tour taught you about the sort of the different flavors of ambition around the globe?
So what's interesting with America, have you listened to the George Mack episode with Chris? They talk about how a British accent is a superpower that you can only use if you go to another country. So they don't realize how many British people have this superpower because they don't leave. But then I think that the UK and America pro rata have the same amount of smart, well-educated people coming out of universities, yet the UK produces 5 times less comedians. And they have a theory that if you're a comedian in America, you go, hey, I'm going to be a stand-up. They're like, man, that's fucking great. We're going to come to your show, man.
Yeah.
You do it in America, they're like, you do it in the UK, they're like, get a job, mate. You know, get a fucking real job. And George Mack has a theory that the funniest man in the UK is probably in a steelworks factory in Leeds. Whereas in America, he's got his own show.
But then on the macro level, we've all got very good crack and chat because of that. Like, you know, you're one of the most hilarious people, like, in the pubs and the cultures because the weather's so
great. He would have had his ambitions squished to the point that they go, don't waste your time being a comedian, just be funny at work.
Yes.
Where in America, they said, don't be funny at work, you can make something of yourself. And I have a feeling that, you know, say I'm on a train in New York and I'm drinking this. I'm like, hey, man, it's a cool looking drink. Like, oh, it's mine. No way, man.
Yes.
What's it called? I don't drink them, but I'll fucking buy a case. That's what they're like. So much of even... Well, I haven't got the biggest following in America, but the second you tell someone that you're being entrepreneurial, they love that go-get attitude. Because in the UK, I think they have this kind of zero-sum attitude where if you're doing well, it's because you're oppressing other people. Oh, your business made £1 million. How many people were oppressed for you to do that? Whereas in America, they go, you've got a business, you hire people, you employ, you pay your taxes. God damn, man, that's what we need. And there's definitely a culture issue in the UK with this, where it doesn't mean you can't do great in the UK, but certainly people are a lot less happy to see you do well. And I think even a lot of, maybe even the people that follow me are actually watching to see me fall off, to see me, you know, fail at something, see me get cancelled, because tearing someone down makes you feel better. I think that for a lot of people anyway, especially those with maybe more fixed mindsets surrounding success and what it looks like, there's a real bitter taste to, and I think it has got a lot to do with the economy. Do you know what's crazy? Since interest rates went up, comments have got worse. It could be social media. I can't say this for sure. But when I look at it, I now genuinely see unhappy people. And it makes me sad. Even if they're ripping into me, taking the piss out of my hairline, whatever it is, I look at it and I think, fuck, this is just a temperature test of unhappy people. And I think that maybe if our economy was doing better, would they be in a better mindset? Because if you take away the amount of pubs closing, nightclubs closing, the amount of people that didn't go on holiday, couldn't afford a holiday, all the people that's even just financially are becoming worse off, they're just becoming more cocooned in their home, more into echo chambers. Algorithms are feeding them things they want to see and things they don't. They're becoming bitter and resentful. A lot of men probably more lonely than ever. The dating market is only going to make things worse. We have like this perfect recipe for very bitter people. Not to say they don't have the same problems in America, but in the UK, it's not like today, you're not exactly going to go for a walk and clear your head. It's pissing it down with rain and it's freezing. And even my parents have been gaslit. September, we got all the radiators on. My missus from Australia, she's freezing. I'm like, it's September. They're like, so what? I'm like, I feel like there's someone I should be able to complain to. I'm like, Ibiza still have closing parties for the next month. We should not be here in coats and who can I complain to? Bloody Labour government. What have they done? Ruined the weather for us. So like, it's one of those things that culturally here, it's difficult. It's a bit of a slog, but it's still fun. America, as far as the markets get into, our sales are about 50-50 between America and USA at the moment. And when we
America and Australia, sorry,
no, America and UK for Newtonic.
Okay, yep.
We can't actually produce in Australia because
where is it produced? Is it?
So we have factories in the UK and America.
Okay.
So we have different.
How did you? Because just before we go into that, did you have? Because that's a really smart move from people like Dash Water.
Yeah.
That's like Jack, who's the founder of that's my good mate of mine, and they've moved to Australia, but they've actually built a factory, whereas most people try and ship it and it's fucked. Like, who told you to do those two things? Was it?
So one of our partners is a company called Gemflow.
Yeah.
And Gemflow help creators monetize through products, whether it's supplements, whatever. So they had pre-existing relationships with the factories in both places, which meant that once we had our formulation, we could go to America, find a good factory, work with them, that work with some of the biggest brands. Same in the UK. The cans have got to be different in different territories. We were hoping to launch in Australia as well. However, the TGA, the Therapeutics Goods Association, are your dickheads. And so even theanine, we have 400 milligrams. In Australia, you're not allowed to have more than 250. So on one nootropic alone, boom, can't produce the drink there. And the shipping is extortionate to get it in. But then when you look at Australia, 27 million people, when you look at America's population, you think, hold on, we could just increase our sales by 10% in America and you're not going to lose sleep over Australia. We are going to look to diversify our offering to get into Australia, but America as a territory to get into and to crack, I think is going to be a priority because 1, customers, 2, culture, 3, I also think that there are so many big carbonated, heavily caffeinated drinks for your gym bros, but there's still this massive culture of people editing, scripting, hustling, trying to get people's attention to go after. And even just from a taste perspective, Chris brought a suitcase full of all our competitors' drinks. And the common theme was just how sweet they were. The first sip, you go, oh, that's really nice. But by the time you get to the end of the bottle, you're a bit sickly. We see that with Prime Hydration as well, right? Prime Energy was actually pretty decent. Bit too carbonated, but it was actually a decent product. So where everyone's trying to follow the same footstep of 500 milliliters, 200 milligrams of caffeine, really sweet drinks, we wanted to create something actually that's a little bit more-ish. And I've been nailing probably 2 of these cans a day for 6 months. And I'll be honest with you, even it being my product, there was something in the back of my mind that goes, you're probably going to get sick of this after 3 months. What I do with every song I find on Spotify is I think I'm going to listen to this song forever. Then I listen to it non-stop for a week. And then I hate it. And then I think, how did I used to love this song? I hate this song. But I've been almost abusing this and drinking it far too much. And I'm still not bored of it. And there comes days as well where I won't drink one for a day. I'll probably wake up and for whatever reasons have 3 or 4 coffees and I think I probably shouldn't chase that with a new tonic. And then the next day I'm salivating at having one. I sometimes look at this and forget it's mine. And I'm kind of really glad I'm a part of it. But I think that if we can establish ourselves a bit more in America and just grow that, I've said to the guys, Luke as well, he's a bit crazy in the sense that when we did the book tour, he sent me to Norwich to sign 45 books. It's like 2 hours there, 2 hours back. Considering the royalty is £1 a book, he also got us a Viano. He said, I'll come with you. He goes, no one wants to go to Norwich. So I think the Viano was about 1,800 quid for the day. We're only making £45 on royalties, but to him...
Viano, what's the Viano? That's
like the Mercedes V-Class with the seats in that recline.
Okay, yeah.
It more so for him than me. I would have gone in anything. But so we go there, we spend £1,800 to sign £45 worth of books and come back because to him, he knows how important that is to go meet people, go to towns that people aren't usually there. But we're also the same guys that if we wanted to go to Venice Beach, if they said, James, we're going to send a pallet to Venice Beach, we need you to go give out 3,000 cans, I get the next flight. I probably wouldn't even expense it to the business. Me and Luke would be like, let's do it. Let's go out there. Let's go give cans to people because we know that out of all those people, if 1 in 10 end up drinking it forever or for the next however many months, the acquisition of that customer would be so easy and it would look good. We can do stuff on social similar to what we did in London. We're actually at the point now where whatever it takes for us to expand in those US territories, we're happy to do. Yeah. And having a product that's honestly, I believe, so good that when I give people a case, all I tell them to is to drink it cold. I'm not trying to sell them into it. I'm not like, oh, we've got 4 nootropics here. It's like a brain supplement. I'm like, just fucking drink it, mate. You're like,
yeah.
It's not one of those things that, you need to convince people like Athletic Greens, like, this is good for you. Probiotics, prebiotics, loads of vitamins and minerals. I'm not getting 20% on every sale. So yeah, it's one of those things that I'm just excited to get it into places. Even when podcasts, whatever, we send way too much stock because I know it's going to find its way to videographers, editors, bar staff. And I kind of know that we're going to intertwine into society and we're going to get repeat business from it.
Yeah. I am absolutely over the bloody moon that Big Fish, yes, Big Fish, the big dons of Challenger Food and Drink brand design. I mean, Perry is an absolute legend. He's designed every Challenger brand in your cupboard. Charlie Bigham's, Goo, Tyrrell's, Rana, Clipper Tea. The list is endless. And Big Fish are looking to speak to the next wave of Challenger Food and Drink brands who are a force for good. They're looking to invest in brands, and we've got this sick thing coming next year that you do not want to miss out on. If you want to speak to Big Fish, if you want to go to the Fish Bowl, drop me a DM and I can make it happen. North Star, get listed, say listed, and grow.
Do you actually know your shopper? If you don't know your shopper, you're literally pissing and spunking money up the wall. Knowing your shopper is the secret weapon to unlock more grocery listings and more stores. But not knowing your shopper is literally like driving in the dark, hungover, without a sat nav, in a thunderstorm, in February with 5 miles of petrol in the tank. But knowing your shopper is like having a sat nav. A full tank of petrol. It's a glorious sunny day. You're listening to the Sugar Babes and you've got a fresh, hot pumpkin spice latte by your side. North Star Illuminator is the shopper map to the promised land of growth and success. It does 3 wonderful things for your brand. 1, make your marketing budget sweat. When you've got lucid, crystal clarity on exactly where each precious penny is going, you know how to drive loyalty with existing customers or even bring new shoppers into your brand. Numero 2, what's actually driving performance? Do you actually know why your sales are going up and down? You need to know, like, are you bringing new shoppers into the category? Is that driving growth? Are loyal customers buying more of your brand? Are shoppers switching in and out of your brand versus other brands? I mean, Perfect Head's a glorious example. They are bringing new shoppers into sports and energy. They are so incremental versus, say, chocolate bars, where people just switch in and out of brands all the time. The more you know this, the more oomph you've got with your buyer when you go to do a marketing plan, a joint business plan with retailers. The buyers want to know how incremental you are to the category. That is your passport to success. North Star is your passport. And what you can do is you can literally see it by channel, by retailer, get so specific. If you're looking to go to the next level, honestly, get in touch with North Star and go to the promised land.
How are you thinking about building this brand as separate from you and Chris? And I don't want to say the word personal brand, but like, yeah, your 2 brands in your content, Modern Wisdom and You Tonic. Because I spoke to a Libby who runs Piper, and Piper basically buy brands. They buy brands once you hit a certain level, they'll buy it. They did Propercorn, which is the popcorn brand. They did What Bike. They've done fucking loads. Really interesting. She basically said there's an issue with where the founder's identity becomes too attached to the brand that we can't. Prime, exactly. So how are you sort of seeing this as right? Chris does Modern Wisdom. You do your content. Then how does this thing, this being, which is what a brand eventually has to become, exist without you there? Do you know? Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, I think I truly believe, and I'm obviously going to say this because it's mine, that there's like a certain R0 to this. So with COVID, the R0 was above 1. So
R0 as in?
So there's, when you look at infectious disease, they look at what is the rate in which it becomes. So if you have an R0 of 1.1, I'm pretty sure for like every 10 people for every 1 person that gets the disease, they spread it to 1.1 people.
Right.
Which means that it becomes infectious. And when you get an R0 beneath 1, then the infectious disease starts to shrink. So it's like a really weird way to say that for every 10 customers that we acquire, I feel like they're going to infect even just maybe 1 or 2 of their friends. And then that's just going to keep on going. I think that the rate of infection between people, say they buy a case, their friends go, oh, what's this? Or that's on a shelf. They go, oh, that looks interesting. I think there's such a stickiness to it. I think that there's such a chance that people will then become our advocates, like brands like 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep, I can't shut up about it. You know what it is?
Yeah, it's the cold
temperature
mattress.
control mat. Yeah, and I promote it in every single podcast. They don't even pay me. I'm just obsessed. So then people will see their friends having a white monster and they go, no, you need to have a little bit of this. And what was amazing, have you heard of a guy called Dylan Page? He does the news on TikTok. He's like an English guy or South African accent, but he's got 11 or 12 million followers on TikTok. Seen him?
No, I haven't seen him, no.
Let me show you. Let me show you. The second you see his face, you'll know him. And he messaged me on Instagram and he goes, no way. Hold on, where is it? If I put in Dylan, he'll come up. 12.9 million followers. Seen this guy?
No, I've never actually seen him, no.
So have you guys seen this guy? So he pretty much does his own version of the news, but look at the views he gets, 50 million, 11 million.
That's absolutely
He just
wild.
overtook the Daily Mail, and whenever anything kicks off, he gets there before anyone else. And instead of being in a studio, he's just in his bedroom. He's like, Hezbollah have just had their things blown up with more news incoming. And he just presents the news, but to younger generations who don't subscribe to BBC, whatever. He messages me, he goes, no way, bro. I've been drinking your drinks for 2 weeks. I never knew it was you and Chris. He said, I was on Amazon. It came up, looked like the type of thing that I'm interested in. I read the ingredients, like the nootropics. just up my street, bought the cases. It's been 2 weeks later, I see you promoting it, and now I've realized it's yours. And that is exactly high agency, high functioning, young person, ambitious, sees a product, even just through similar to the packaging, the inquisitiveness, new tonic, a play on nootropics and tonic.
Yep.
They see the eye, which was AI generated. We had so many different.
What were the other sort of on the cutting table that didn't sort of the other versions of this?
So none of them had eyes in, and we were given a page of all different designs. Then there was one eye, and Chris and I, and actually all of us went, "Oh, we like this. Can we show us some more designs?" There were some lazy, some more. This one was just a trippy AI generated eye. And we looked at so many variations, and we actually kept it to the very first one that came out. Again, Chris has been, how far does the eye wrap around the can? What is the sizing? How does it look? And it's almost like a mind control where they see it, they're drawn into it. They see productivity drinks. So then similar to how your thumbnail gets people to read your title on YouTube, your title here, people want the context. Cognizin, rhodiola rosea, panax, ginseng, theanine, caffeine. There's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done around the education space on nootropics. But I think by 2034, they think it's going to be a $4 billion industry, nootropics alone. So we think that the brand should have enough stickiness without the founders to do what it needs to do. And there is some of that happening anyway. I think as well with the landscape of, I think that another trend I'm kind of seeing is influencer-based marketing is slowly dying. And we're seeing this UGC content. Even you look at the format of TikTok Shop, rather than paying, your mate from Love Island 10 grand to promote your drink, normal people are doing it for £4 commission. We don't pay that commission either. TikTok are paying it to get people into their ecosystem. So now you've got Sally from down the road going, "Oh my God, I had one of these." Although I do struggle to sometimes be sold to with that. I saw one the other day of someone selling a coffee machine. I was thinking, I do need a new coffee machine. And if the Chinese Communist Party are going to be subsidizing 100 quid off it, I'll fucking buy one. So I think the landscape for products in general is changing. And to be honest, I don't think I'm alone where I was necking 6 pills and a white monster when I was at my desk. And for that to be offloaded for someone to put together a product for you, I don't see the incessant need. So you do see Logan Paul, KSI having to be so fundamentally involved in all the promotion of their business. I think that if we can get a certain cohort of people drinking this, it could be one of those things that you just leave and it's evergreen, it builds on its own. And then our own campaigns would just be little bumps in the road that then, similar to when you would post on YouTube, your views spike.
Yes.
So when you release a new podcast, then you have trickles of people going back to old videos. So I would say that we will always hopefully be involved in the brand, but the brand should do a lot for us.
It's so interesting. So Jamie Lang and Ed Williams have been on this podcast. Ed's Jamie's co-founder in Candy Kittens. Ed's been on a couple of times, and they were saying for about 4 years they actually didn't even have Jamie's name on the brand for Candy Kittens. They wanted it, and Candy Kittens is absolutely flying here. They had it right at the beginning. Then they took Jamie off, and then they've now brought him back in a little bit. But I think it is so interesting, as you say, in terms of there's enough in that sort of early adopters of brand evangelists who are going to just do that treacle effect for you, that you can kind of give it some welly to begin with, ease off, and then that's how you get get it growing and existing without you having to be so attached to it. What do you think went, because the Prime sales absolutely bombed, like what from the, because I think that they talk about CPG, and I also think there's this sort of creator package goods thing happening now, especially in the States. From the creator perspective, where do you think they went wrong with Prime, and why did it bomb?
Product. It became a status item. It was almost a luxury good, not an actual genuine product. So what they were trying to do was create a hydration drink. And the problem behind that would have been electrolytes and hydration. Similarly to, we see the gap in the market being people taking nootropic supplements with an energy drink. I see the gap in the market that people don't particularly like having to take all the supplements, or if you can reduce the supplement regimen that person's taking and offload some of it to a drink, that's a solution that can remain permanent, semi-permanent, 3-6 months, whatever the customer lifetime value would be. Whereas with Prime, the real problem wasn't really addressed. If it was a hydration beverage, firstly, the solution of sodium and potassium should have been the right way around. So when we look at sweat, when we sweat, the main thing we lose is sodium. We do also lose a substantial amount of potassium. Then the other electrolytes, calcium and so forth, are almost negligible. The gatekeeper is magnesium, but ultimately we need to replenish salt. Now, glucose speeds up that absorption rate. So when you look at things like Powerade, Lucozade, Prime were trying to virtue signal that they had a superior hydration product, but actually sugar, glucose, is a very important part of rehydration. If you look at a saline drip, you're pretty much giving someone water, sugar, and salt. That's how you revive someone if you find them in the Sahara Desert. So even if they had 5-10 grams of glucose, if they had said, hey, this actually hydrates you quicker, the fact they used coconut water and went heavy on potassium goes to show there was no real understanding of what rehydration and hydration beverages look like. When you next drink Powerade or Gatorade, if you try and feel for the salt, you'll taste the salt. And they're actually optimized for people at the right times. You might play five-a-side and afterwards you're like, oh, I need a Powerade, I need a Gatorade, I need a Lucozade. But then I actually think the serious market are creating their own electrolytes through powders that are ready to go. You've got Liquid IV, Gatorade have got their own, you've got Momentous, you've got LMNT, you've got all of these companies already dominating in that space. And if you're going to require someone from a hydration standpoint, the sachets are going to be so much better to travel with, to work with. You can also then have for instance, for Jiu-Jitsu, I have a big Yeti, it's maybe 2.4 liters. I know that I need to fill it with water, put some ice cubes in, I put my 10 grams of creatine, and I put my 3 scoops, 15 grams of electrolyte mix, done for the day. The company that I use acquired me as a customer, and now that is going to be part of my routine forever. If I train Jiu-Jitsu without my electrolytes, I can feel the difference. Prime I never saw coming into someone's life and staying a routine part of their life. It's not something that was going to be on a subscription. The electrolyte balance was wrong. The tastes were too intense. Some people like it. The demographic, again, was young kids, boys, who aren't really people that are going to buy into a subscription model. They're getting their parents to pay for it. There's going to be fatigue from the parents having to continue. Oh, you're not still drinking that, are you?
Yeah, it's almost like it was more like kids at school when you're like 8 to 13. It's a craze. It's not even a trend. A craze is even more fickle than a
If you look
trend.
at some of the other things that they've done, whether it was pumping, crypto zoo, like different coins or whatever it is, a lot of these creators look for a pump and dump where they see a trend in the market. I know that Logan's had a lot of shit over this crypto zoo thing where people lost millions and invested loads into it. Have you kept up with this? So during the NFT era, you did have the likes of Gary Vee and other people go, oh, NFTs are the future. And most people are like, no, this sounds like,
fucking hell,
it sounds like a fucking con. Same with crypto. They were like manipulating crypto markets. They would have made their money and walked. And I think that when Prime came along, they said, hold on, this is almost like a physical coin that we can manipulate, we can pump, we can...
Such an interesting point, that, yeah.
It is, and even though it's flopped, those guys have cashed out millions. So even if I was to get Logan Paul and KSI here and go, no one's buying your drink, they'll go, oh, look at my bank account balance. You think I give a fuck? The money's already in the bank, probably already paid tax on it, they've already cleared it. You don't give a shit. You pumped something up. The manufacturers, the bottle companies, the people that are left with the stock are probably thinking, oh, maybe they've had wool put over their eyes, or maybe they haven't. Maybe everyone's cashed in. All of this stock that's in these discount bins in Tesco's has already been paid for, and they've had their time in the sun. They've had their time, they were selling a lot. There was high demand. Different off licenses were selling them for extreme amounts of money.
In Tesco over here, they had on the thing, you can only take one. You can only buy one, which is basically the best marketing of all time because it's scarcity. So if these kids got them, they had status when they went to school. It was fucking crazy.
So I think for us as a brand, so we didn't take any investment to begin with. So we've self-funded everything ourselves. In the first year, I think we've sold just over 2 million cans. We haven't actually hit that year mark yet. So we've invested our own money. And actually, when I look around the camp, no one's itching to pull their money out. We're much happier with a slow burn. We would quite...
Who is it? It's you, Luke, Chris.
And Sean, who has GenFlow, is also a shareholder in it.
Yep.
So we've got Chris and I, the cog that keeps us well-oiled, and then we've got Sean, who operates and has the good relationships within manufacturing, all the way down from cans, formulation, ingredients. When we need to farm Rodiello Rosea, he knows the person to call. So that's been tantamount because he's got such great staff as well. When we do look into advertising spend, we can have a team there. It means that we didn't have to frantically hire so much in the beginning, where we are still expanding the team, but that was great for us. But for us, it's like a slow burn. It is that R0 above 1, where we can grow the customer base, move into a subscription model where this can become a part of someone's life. I joke with people already that say you were to buy a bundle that would last you let's say you buy 3 cases, 36 cans. To me, that is a month's supply because people in your house are going to steal it. My dad hates fizzy drinks. If I said, do you want a Coke Zero? He'd say, that's naff. I catch him having a can. My sister steals them. My missus steals them. I will go back home to Australia where I have to get them shipped from the UK. And I go past my front door and I'm shouting up to my missus, who's been drinking my new tonics? Oh, sorry, dad came round. He's had a few. Oh, my sister was round with the boys. She's taken a few cans. I'm having to hide them from people in my extended family. That to me is, I was saying to you offline, I can tell what's going on in the world by what my barber's telling me about stuff. When I see people stealing them from me, people at training keep saying to me, can I get some? Oh, I love the drink, whatever it is. I've even got jiu-jitsu athletes that I train with who are wearing the brand for free. They just like the drink. They see it's kind of cool. They like what Chris and I have done. And it's almost my observations from our own product, which of course can be biased because it is mine. I actually sit back and go, oh, this is better than I expected. It's almost a better than the accumulation of its parts. And although maybe on paper, looking at it, someone could go, oh, this is done better, this is done better. We kind of like this slow burn. We would rather not, even with my following over the years, I'm so glad I didn't go on Love Island to get all my followers overnight because you need to grow and adapt with that level of growth. And myself as someone that is a shareholder and founder in a drinks business, I still need to learn the trade. If we sold millions a month, it would be too fast for me to adapt or keep up with it. It would be too stressful. And I like the fact that in a few years' time, when we do break above it, people go, oh, this drink came out of nowhere. Be like, no, I've been doing this for 5 years.
That teases up nicely for all wins feel the same. And I think that's just such a good point. If you could kind of unpack that, and how did you actually come to that insight?
So I remember, it's happened so many times in my life. I knew 100,000 followers would be a big moment. For 100,000 followers, I popped a bottle of champagne in Ibiza. Me and my friend high-fived, I'm like, we've made it. 1 million followers didn't really feel any different. If anything, it felt worse. And
why did it feel worse?
I don't know. I'd just been working towards it for a much longer period of time. And then Luke and I, my manager, we would actually, every time my following grew by 1,000, we'd race each other, be like 967, 968. And if you beat me to it, I'd be like, fuck. But then when we hit 1 million, we stopped doing it because you're not going to say 1,000,001, 1,000,002. Then another thing where in my head, I'd made it so important to hit that mark so that if people land on my page, it's 1 million. I always think how sad it looked at 999 or 998. I also thought, then I need to get it to 1.1 million so I can abuse vegans and not have to worry about it dropping below.
Yeah.
And then every single time it's gone, the amount of happiness is really short-lived. And I kind of get angry with myself because the first time it felt better. Same way that even buying a car recently, I bought my dream car and I sit in it and go, I think I was happier when I bought my first secondhand Golf, because actually I think as success goes on, the returns and rewards, you hype them up more in your mind and they don't feel quite as you expect when you reach them. So it's really important for people to realize that if you try and get an Uber when it's raining on a Friday afternoon, you get a surcharge of 1.7 and you got to pay it because everyone wants an Uber. But we seem to tell ourselves there's an Uber surcharge on happiness the further we go in life. And it's actually the other way around. It's 1 times when you get it first, then it's 0.9 at the next, and it's 0.7. And I spoke to someone who sold his business for a few hundred million. And I go, what did you do? He goes, I sat in my hotel room on my own, I cracked a beer and ate a pizza. And he kind of sat there and was like, oh.
Everyone I've interviewed on this podcast who sold their business, they're always just like, the founder of Tyrrell's Crisps, who's you've had Tyrrell's Crisps.
Yeah, I told my parents about that as well. I was like, that's a brand they'll know.
Yeah. Unreal Crisps. And he's got a great little phrase, which is, when you're in the winner's enclosure, you realise that all the fun was in the race. That there's not one person I've sat here in front of who's sold their business and they've said, and it's that kind of that deflating feeling. When all wins feel the same, what is the sort of antidote to that? Because a lot of people listen to this podcast thinking when I get Waitrose, things will be happy. When I get Sainsbury's, I'll be happy. When I sell it, things will be happy. Like, all wins feel the same. Then what is
the same reward to it? It's the same hormone. It's the same neuroplasticity. It's the same serotonin, dopamine, whatever it is that you're getting. Just because the size of the things and the numbers and the stakes change, it doesn't impact that. Same way that if you watch a sad film, the sadness feels the same in all domains, whether it's The Notebook or something else. When you shed a tear, it's not like you're getting 10 times sadness on one film versus another. Maybe some emotional pause. every time you get pissed off driving, it's pretty much the same. The levels of it might change a bit, but ultimately you forget about it the next day. With wins, we just build them up because it's an easy way to motivate ourselves. It's an easy way to say, because even now, I need something to make me miserable so I stay motivated. So one thing at the moment is my mortgage, my parents' mortgage, my sister's mortgage. I kind of see myself in work at the moment that if we were to sell shares in Newtonic or any of the other businesses I have, they would be the first things that I would look to pay off. So I kind of say to myself now, James, you need to work hard or your parents are going to have to downsize. That's kind of the narrative in my mind. But I know the second I pay off my parents' mortgages, my sister's, mine, whatever, there'll come a day I go, cool, what's making me miserable now? What can I have to make me miserable? I know exactly what it'll be. Haven't got enough cars, house isn't big enough. I'll move into a bigger house and then there'll be a fucking leak in the wall. And I'll go, I shouldn't have moved into this fucking big house. What I should have done is got more debt and moved into a bigger one. And I'll probably continue to do that for the rest of my life.
It's almost that links to that sort of barbell strategy. You're trying to find things to get pissed off with or where there's not enough. And that almost is the antidote to this all wins feel the same.
Yeah, it's exactly that, where so much of, but the journey, I know that I'm going to be on this hedonic treadmill nonstop. I know that I'll buy a car that I really want and then I'll get a little bit bored of it. Then I'll get annoyed at myself that I got bored of it. And then this will just continue to happen. But as long as that journey of just constantly being disappointed, motivated, unhappy, satisfied, back to unhappy, as long as that makes lives around me more stress-free, I'm happy to take the stress.
I want to talk about marketing and jiu-jitsu. I love learning from things like cross sections. I think you literally can learn from one thing to another. What's jiu-jitsu taught you about marketing?
Two things that I love saying about jiu-jitsu. One is that you're going to be fucking shit for 2 years. And maybe that 2 years might become 1 year, might be a year and a half, might be 6 months if you go all in. But ultimately it's how many times you turn up and how hard you work when you're not training that's going to differentiate that. The second thing I like to say to people is I'm now a brown belt. My next belt will be black, but I love it just as much at brown belt as I did at purple. And I actually look back and loved it just as much as white belt. How good you are at it shouldn't influence how much you enjoy it.
That's so good.
So when I was dog shit, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I was just dangerous to all my training partners, I loved it. Now that I'm nearly a black belt, I still love it. I'm still just as nervous at competition because my competitors are just as good as me, but I still love it the same amount. So no matter where you are on the spectrum of competency, that shouldn't impact how much you enjoy it. So if you're doing your first ad reads, you're writing your first scripts, you're putting out your first content, fucking enjoy it, because when you're a master at it, you're just going to love it as much or hate it as much than when you're not. So whatever means of marketing you're using, email marketing, direct marketing, you need to remember to enjoy it every stage, because when you get better, it's not guaranteed you're going to enjoy it more.
And then what would you say are sort of I think like Rory has these kind of jiu-jitsu marketing moves. Like, I think he has, says the opposite of a good idea is another good idea, which, at the front of his book, Alchemy, he's got that list. And what he said to me is, he goes, the opposite of Starbucks. If I wanted to create the opposite of Starbucks, I'd create a coffee shop in a train station called Flat Whites or Fuck Off. And I just thought that is just so good. You can imagine the way he said it. But he's got those, he goes, solving problems using only rationality is like playing golf only using one club. He had one which he taught me about food and drink, which is like hipsters raise the ceiling and chains raise the floor. So it's like we actually need Weatherspoons because it sets the benchmark, right? Then we can get the next pub comes in and it gets better. What would you say are some of your one or two kind of jiu-jitsu marketing moves that kind of only through 1 year of jiu-jitsu and 2 years of marketing?
So if I make a mistake in jiu-jitsu, chances are I'm going to end up in a bad position. So let's say the bad position would be you mounting me, you on my back with your arms around my neck, or you having full control of my leg and being able to break it. Let's say those three scenarios. However, although that sounds really bad and doom and gloom, I now have a perfect opportunity to work my way out of a bad position.
Yeah.
So if I never made mistakes, I would not be very good at the positions that are most important to escape from. So sometimes through playfulness, I'll get myself in a sticky situation where a white belt is on my back with his arms fully wrapped around my neck trying to choke me out. I then need to be grateful for being there, because now I've got someone giving all the strength he's got in the world, because the higher belts conserve their strength a little bit. The white belts try and kill you. The white belts are the most dangerous on the mat. But then in that very moment, I can embrace the mistake, because I'm now going to become more competent at escaping a fully locked up rear naked choke. When I do make a mistake and someone's got me in a heel hook, I now get to practice escaping from a heel hook. If it goes wrong, we can tap and start again. But if it goes right, I can become better at that. So as you become more experienced, you're more open to making mistakes, because when you make a mistake, you then get to a point that you're either ready for or you're not. So I think that in business and marketing, people are trying to do so much without making mistakes. But if you do that, you never get good at the important places. So for instance, if you try and curate your email marketing to look perfect, you might never really realize what works for people and what doesn't. The first thing I ever bought from email marketing was a guy who wrote an email drunk at his dad's funeral. And he said at the end, if you think it's inappropriate for me to sell off my dad's death, go fuck yourself. Oh my God, I bought his book. It's great. I ignored all the emails before. That to him was letting someone advance their position somewhere dangerous. Now, if half his email list unsubscribed, he's tapped out. But when you tap out, you start again. Mm-hmm. Now, if he got more sales than ever, he's now realized how to escape a very dangerous position. So without being vulnerable to letting your situation potentially worse by maybe being polarizing in your content, telling people to fuck off, imagine some of the things that, with beer, with alcohol, with whatever, you can actually have a bit of fun with it. You could say, remember when Yorkie had the chocolate bar, not for girls?
Yeah.
Little things like that. If that campaign completely fucked them in the sales, they can always tap out, start again with something else. It's never really the end of the world. Even Bud Light are doing fine now.
Yeah.
They pulled the vets card and they're back. They're probably back better than ever. And Dana White it sounds like it's all about the money. It was a fucking sponsor, you dickheads. Of course it's about the money.
Yeah.
So by learning...
So interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that. So you're putting yourself in vulnerable and uncomfortable situations, because that is where you can learn. Like you can only learn from those uncomfortable situations. And actually, I think it also thinks, the opposite of a good idea is a good idea. No one's trying to fucking do that. Everyone's just trying to get through in this very, go through scotch-free without anything bad happening. But by putting yourself in those really weak situations, you're learning something that no one else is going to learn.
Imagine, let's say you've got an IT security company. You should say to your get all the personal data off there. Go, cool. Take the website down for a second. Let's let people hack us. Let's let ourselves get hacked, right? Then the second you get hacked, you go, cool, go to work. And then you would be in the real situation where you have to do something. That would make your IT security infrastructure. I'm not saying it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's kind of the premise of it. Or, hey, let's try a campaign that could be really, really bad for the business. And if we do lose sales, let's recuperate it over the next 3 months. But only by doing those things can you really see if things are going to work better. And
what are some of the things sorry to interrupt, what are some of the things you've done where you've put yourself in those really vulnerable situations, and what have you learned? Like any specific examples?
In the onset, they probably went a bit too far, a few lawsuits, but just saying putting things really straight on content and just being like, do you know what? This post could lose me 10,000 followers. It could gain me 10,000. The only way we're going to know is by doing it. I remember I made some mistakes that cost me. There was one where someone commented on a post of mine and they said, it's okay for you. You're a cisgender straight white male. And I replied and screenshotted it and posted it going, or I outworked you for a decade. And my God, there were like news companies messaging me going, oh, James, we just wondered if you wanted to comment on this. I'm like, Luke, should I comment on this? He's like, no, they're about to tear you down in a news piece. I was like, really? He was like, yeah. And I remember that all kicking off. But then I was proud of what I said because it was what I was thinking. But then there are other times where someone's chatting shit and I'm going to make a post about it. And when I post it, I get anxiety. Oh, this could go badly. And then the next day I've grown by 75,000 followers and my inbox is like, oh, you were so right. That post helped me understand this and this. So we joke around where Luke and I said for a long time, we called lawsuits speeding tickets. And we said, if you're not getting sued, you're not moving fast enough. And it was kind of that fast and loose approach to marketing that I think helped. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but that's how you become better at those things. And for my manager comes from an industry much more cutthroat than mine. So he's battle hardened to a lot.
What's Luke do? Is he...
So he came from nightlife promoting to running festivals and events.
Yeah. Because I actually met, I was in Ibiza at a wedding and met one of my met a promoter out there. And I was like talking to him about New Tonic. He was like, yeah, I fucking know Luke. So he sent in an email when we were at this wedding. His name's, my mate's called Joe Iglesias, who's the DJ. I don't know what the manager's name was. And that's kind of how this sort of linked in. which is super interesting. But yeah, so he was doing the nightlife thing.
Nightlife, club promoting, festivals, but then you have artists who, 2 weeks before headlining a gig, we want 50 grand more. Or when they're signing contracts, they'll pull you out through the whole contract signing process. Then just you're about to put pen to paper, if you give us 10 grand more, we'll do it today. And as a promoter, you're like, fuck, I've already sold tickets to this. Yeah, cool. You have another 10 grand.
Yeah.
You would have people pull out of events. You'd have people say, I'm not doing this if that person's doing it as well. You can have people overdose on drugs in your crowd and you'd be liable for manslaughter. And people posting stories about, they weren't real sniffer dogs. That was the security guard's pet dog. And there's nothing you can do to challenge those claims. So there's real serious things happening. Then when you come into the world of having a brand with a drinks business I want a public apology. People are like, this isn't serious, legitimate lawsuits. That's defamation. It's actually my personal opinion, as I said in the post. So the things in this realm just aren't as serious to what they can be in other places. So having someone who's battle hardened and being in those bad situations definitely helps.
What's he taught you?
Everything. I'm pretty sure that he's almost the person I go to for like a second opinion, but a lot to do with business, relationships, and as far as you can get inside your own head a lot. And imagine this. If I was to ask you to look through your organization or to your friendship group and to point and pick things that maybe your friends or colleagues or employees aren't good at, you can do it really easily. Not being a twat. You could go, he's great at sales copy, but he's not too good at speaking in front of camera. Dale, he's really good at chatting up girls, but he's awful at driving. This person. But then when it comes to picking what you're not good at, we have blind spots. If you would say, James, what aren't you good at? I'm like, I'll pull a blank, or I'd pull a premeditated answer to it. So having someone that can see your blind spots and attribute your strengths and also help you understand your weaknesses, I'll probably say that.
What are your blind spots?
Well, this is it. I think this would be a premeditated answer, but it would definitely be organization, short-term memory, patience. I would say what I've managed to do over the last maybe 10, 15 years is use those probably negative personality traits to benefit my business. Whereas in corporate, I was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Hated it. Couldn't stand it. Sitting at a desk. Definitely rebellious. You finish work at 5:30, but I finished my work. It's 4:30. I'll sit here for an hour. Fuck off.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just corporate chat where I hated the fact that, in recruitment, someone goes, James, what was your weekend? What'd you get up to? I couldn't really say that I had a bin bag around my neck and I threw up 2 bottles of wine into a bin bag and needed a line of cocaine to straighten myself out. I couldn't say it. I was like, yeah, I just went for dinner. I'm just lying to people.
Went to Pizza Express.
Yeah. Ended up getting chucked out of club in Reading at 22. I can't say stuff like that. So yeah, it's one of those things that allowed me to be this chaotic, semi-unprofessional, because even in some respects now I'm still semi-unprofessional to what some people would think. You can't be rude to people, you can't call people out, but it's just on brand.
I want to talk about specific on the email marketing side of things. So I write every day. I'm obsessed with writing. I write a weekly newsletter, all for food and drink founders like this. We're at sort of 4,000, I think 200 and something subscribers. Send it out on a Friday morning. It's called Hungry Friday Feast. And the open rate's like 56%. And they all listen to the podcast as well. So I use that email to send people to the podcast, right? I then do these workshops for brands where I go in and sort of help them with sales, so selling in supermarkets. Did it for Vita Coco yesterday. I'm trying to work out how to... I think that video you did where you said I've sacked off that 480,000 YouTube channel. I'm going to focus on this smaller YouTube channel because I think lots of creators actually don't have a business underneath it, and I think that's such a good point. And I'm really trying to work out how I can, one, grow that newsletter, but then two, get more of those sales training days. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's loads of things you've talked about, which is drip feeding people with, instead of, I think you've said ebooks are a load of wank. Like everyone's doing ebooks, they're fucking wank. Drip feed them. But I'm a writer, but I'm not an email marketeer. I'd love to kind of go through that.
What is the biggest problem that you're helping to solve?
With the newsletter or with the business?
With both, let's say.
So
Let's say with the business first.
with the business, I
Are
help,
you using the newsletter to promote the business?
I'm using the newsletter to write. That's a fucking good point. Like, I'm using the newsletter to write my thoughts about someone's a challenger brand I've interviewed that week, so they don't actually link together. Do you see what I mean? I'm getting these sort of workshops from referrals, friends of friends, etc., who listen to the podcast, but I've never actually used the newsletter to try and drive people to it. So newsletter, the content is, okay, I spoke to Seth Godin last week. He told me something that all the people think people buy food and drink brands because they're delicious. Seth said, oh, that's actually a load of bollocks. Like, people buy food and drink brands because of status, affiliation, and fear from freedom. Like, that's an interesting thing. That will go in the newsletter. The sales workshop specifically is we were like yesterday with Vita Coco. Go in, they're a much bigger business. I think they're doing 60 mil just in the UK, right? So they go in, and their team is so used to selling in their core range, their existing products to Sainsbury's, Waitrose, blah blah blah. But they've got this new NPD, new product development coming out. They want to think of some creative ways. So I'll go in and tell them how to creatively sell, how to sell stories. So when you're speaking to a supermarket buyer, it's like, this is our data. Do you know what I mean? Fucking hell. Like, how many times have you heard that, right? Yeah. It's basically polishing a turd is probably the best way of saying it. So that's what the workshop is. Did it yesterday. It went really, really well. But I don't know how to grow my business in terms of the newsletter and that, and whether I even put this on like an online course. I know you've done that with the app.
Yeah, I suppose it's to do with the size of the demographic that you're working with. The one thing from the email marketing perspective, I remember you could do the odd campaign promoting would you say there are people reading your email list that would be in a position to hire you for the business?
As in hire me to do the workshop?
Sales, yeah.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
So then maybe you just run the newsletter as a value piece, but then occasionally run a broadcast to say, by the way, these are my diary slots. If you want me to come in and help you with your brand to formulate ways to sell, here's a booking page, or here's my email, or here's my number.
So in the broadcast, sorry, I'm going to ask some
an infrequent broadcast could
just
be, let's say your diary's looking a little bit empty over the next few months.
Yeah.
Those 4,000 people that get the newsletter, you can always send them an email on top. Hey guys, just checking in, just let you know, if you have a brand and you have this problem, bum, 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 I can do bum, 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 bum. If not to worry, newsletter's coming out in 2 days, thought I'd reach in. You could even maybe have I would just hit the main list as per usual. But then as far as growing the list, I think one thing you could do is time-sensitive signups. So on social media, tomorrow I'm going to be sharing why people don't buy for this reason, this reason, this reason, and why you might want to consider doing this, this, this. Join my email list before midday when I send it, and you can get all of those things.
Oh, sorry. So you'd say, so I send it out on a Friday, and I would say, if you sign up today before
Thursday. Yeah. Tomorrow at midday, this is going out. Don't miss it. It's really important. It's going to change the way you see business. It's going to change the way everything happens.
Yeah.
You can run something like that. You go later on this week. You can maybe even do some stuff earlier before. You could just go out straight away and say, if you want to know this, you really, the angle could be, I go and interview people that have the knowledge you need, and I succinctly summarize it in a weekly newsletter that's fucking free. I hire the studio, I get the guys recording it, I get the mic, I sit there for 2 fucking hours, I get the training. All I want is your email address, and I give you the best parts. You could even angle it as...
Yeah, I was doing such a sort of fanny around sort of call to action. It's like, yeah, it's like all the way.
You could even say, I interviewed James for 2 hours. If you want to know the 4 biggest lessons that I learned in an email that takes 1 minute to read, sign up now. Save yourself 2 hours. Don't listen to him waffle for 2 hours. Another thing that I love at the moment that I use is something called an autoresponder. So I pre-write emails. I create them in a list where they're sent daily. And then for different businesses. So today on my story, the first one is an autoresponder for fitness, fat loss. So that's really for my fitness app. If they sign up, they get a nugget of fitness and fat loss training advice every day for 4.5 months. And within that sequence, they get promoted new tonic, they get asked to do the fitness app, they get asked to do a free trial, they get asked to do different memberships. And in my mind, after 4.5 months, if they haven't joined the program, they're probably never going to join. Fine. But that means that I can walk through Waterloo now. Someone can fist bump me and go, oh, sick email today. And I haven't written one in 3 weeks. So for me, that was my way of maybe retiring from email marketing, because we were spending about 30 grand a month on emails last year. And it's just not, that was like, £300,000 a year on emails. It's like, it's
what were you spending? What was that?
The list was about 550,000.
Right.
And we were hitting them daily. and it was just building up. It was insane. So that was, and then we have all of our emails that are sent through in, people signing up, people doing all this stuff. So I had to calm that down a bit. Now we have some more segmented lists, but then from a business to business standpoint, which would probably be more in line with your services, I have a sequence of 30 business lessons, 30 ways in 30 days to improve your business. And it's completely free. And when people sign up, usually they join the course between days 19 and 21. Now, the beauty of that is we can then run paid ads. We know on average what the average person that signs up to, or 100 people sign up to the newsletter. We know that maybe 24 of them become clients. We know the average customer spend is X. So therefore, we can run paid ads to grow the email list by putting that in front of people. Maybe even if it's a video in front of someone. If you're someone that's in this space and you're struggling to sell to vendors and supermarkets, then this is a 30-day series of golden nuggets that you can have for free. Having some way to get people into the ecosystem where you can send them that, because it's a value add. You're doing work for them at the end of the day. They should be grateful that you're going to this effort for them. And if you can present it in that way, you're not trying to pester them with a fucking newsletter talking about calories or, hey guys, join my fitness plan. This is probably why I've got good at marketing, because what I sell is fucking hard to market. Do you want to work out? No. Do you want to pay someone £45 a month indefinitely to make it your workout? No. Do you want someone to call you a fat twat? No. Do you want to eat healthy foods? Probably not. I just want to live my life and I just don't want to be fat. But, even most personal trainers are nauseous. They're just people that don't understand you. So for the first 7 years of my career, I've had to promote something that is inherently really hard to get people to like. But your newsletter sounds like something incredibly valuable where you're, if anything, subservient to the reader. You're extracting lessons from individuals and then succinctly summarizing it into a means that you're paying for, because the email list isn't free. If anything, they should be paying you for that newsletter. But you're going to use it to promote your own endeavors as well. If you can give it that angle that you're doing them a favor, that's what will be in it for them.
So that's like almost the call to action. Because what I do at the minute is I write the newsletter and then I'll take bits of the content and put it onto LinkedIn. That's where like the bulk of the audience is on LinkedIn, right? And then I have that call to action at the bottom. They subscribe. It is growing slowly but surely. Is there any, like, I've read stuff where I think it was it Morning Brew would give out fucking cups and stuff like that if you do a referral to 10 people. Like, is that bollocks or is that...
The only problem then is you grow a list of people that want free cups.
Yeah, oh my God. That's the subprime audience thing, isn't it?
So imagine this is where it really hit me, is when I promoted Newtonic for the first time, the guys put together a launch video and I said to them, this video is going to fucking bomb. And they were like, we put it together. It was a professional 30-minute edit of, hey guys, we've created a product. I was like, guys, it's going to fucking bomb. I put it out, it fucking bombed. So I did a live stream straight afterwards going, I didn't like the video either. And I sat there and just explained to people what it was about, that it wasn't a money grab, that it was our product. And I just put people's mind to ease. Really unprofessional. It was early in the morning, dogs barking in the background. The comments on that were, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to support you, I'm going to do that. The launch video was just, completely, in essence, done wrong. But instead of trying to present the brand, I was like, oh, do you know what, guys? I've given up nearly £500,000 of my own money so that you don't have to take pills with your White Monster. Try it out.
Yes.
I've never done a paid post. A case costs 20 quid or 29 pounds. At the time, it was like 24 pounds. I was like, if you don't like it, I will monzo you out of my personal post-tax income to refund you for the crate. That was my 8 Mile speech. That was me dropping the mic. If after posting 4,500 Instagram posts, which works out like 12, what is it? Let me do the maths actually quickly. So I've had Instagram since 2017. How many years ago was that? 7?
Yeah.
Give or take 8. Let's call it 8. So
maths is horrendous.
4,500 divided by 8. That's 562 posts divided by 365. I've done 1.5 posts every day for 8 years. And I'm asking you to try a product that I've been working on for a year and a half. If they get to the end of that conclusion and go, nah, mate, it's probably subprime behavior, because I've definitely been guilty of trying to have a large audience of anyone. Because when I first started out, I would swear more. I would really go in on people because I loved having a small niche audience of people that would go to war for you. And I definitely got lost somewhere on the way, and I did that on YouTube. And that's not to say that everyone should buy my products. It's not me moaning as a creator like, oh, you didn't buy my product, therefore you're subprime. That's not the argument. But
when you say subprime, just define that quickly.
So not optimal, suboptimal.
Yeah.
So I like subprime because it reminds me of the Big Short.
Yeah, that's what I thought of as the.
And that's from George Max. So I must give him credit. And it just kind of made me realize that if you try and attract the wrong audience over time, if you try and grow your email list giving free cups, the second you want someone's money, they're just gone. And the worst thing is that I've done this before where I've had videos go super viral and it gets me loads of followers. I did one recently on menopause and Andrew Huberman started following me from a menopause video. But I don't sell anything to do with menopause. And very soon, these menopausal women, mid-hot flush, are going to see me do a video about Newtonic and go, this is the wrong guy, they're going to unfollow. And I'm potentially going to take that unfollow to heart because easy come, easy go. Bring them in for the wrong reason, they leave for the wrong reason. And if you grow your email list by 10,000 giving out free cups, you spend 10 grand doing it, and then you send an email promoting your product and 500 people unsubscribe, you're going to take that personally when the reality is you brought in the wrong people.
Yeah, that's. And I suppose then it's just for me because this audience can't. I'm not trying to build a massive audience. I'm trying to build a burning hot audience basically.
If 1% of your email list wanted to book with you, you'd probably be slammed.
Yeah,
you'd probably be fucked.
Yeah.
So much of because what we're doing here is we're almost on autopilot, seeing the size of your email list as a success metric, which is not the amount of bookings.
Yeah, it's mad because I did an event in Manchester with the co-op and I thought, there's no one's going to fucking come to this. Put it on the email list and we had like 40 people, 50 people, all food and drink founders. And I was that moment when I was like, I'm not even in London, like whenever I live, I was like, that's where it's not about the size. It's like, if you say something, are people going to get involved with it?
Yeah, I am. Even at 13,000 followers, I filled a room with 200 people for a fat loss talk. And there are some people that have got 1 million followers that don't have the pull to do that. And it was really a lesson for me this year that it's about really having, and again, think about Newtonic. If we had 10, 20,000 people on a subscription, like maybe, keep growing that by 5% every month or whatever, you get to a very big business with very, very safe turnovers. You're going to have a bit of churn, some in, some out, whatever. Like for Chris and I to have a joint following of maybe, let's say, 7 million people, if just 10% of those people were to buy and try the product, we now have the momentum that we need to really, this is like a snowball in my mind. The hardest part is getting the momentum in the beginning, similar to the adage of a spaceship needs the majority of its fuel to get out the atmosphere and then it's fine. Once we can get this snowball rolling and we have enough stock and we're at that kind of point that people have seen the brand, it's been around, paid ads are performing, everything like that, it'll be something that I truly believe people won't be able to stop.
What's one truth you believe that most people disagree with you on?
Honest marketing. I've used this in dating. I'm a taken man now. I've got a family. But in the beginning, if I wanted to, go on a casual date, let's call it, be professional, I would just straight up tell the person, the woman, exactly what I wanted. And then we can save each other's time, because if I lie to her and tell her what I think she wants to hear, oh yes, I'm looking to date so, we can settle down and have kids and live in Richmond, that's me assuming I know what they want. She might just want to go out, have a few drinks and have sex. And by me trying to allure her into this false reality of what I want, I could be taking myself further away from the thing I want. So if people could just be more honest, truly, brutally honest with people, I think it could put us all in a net position, because assuming we know what people want is a really bad way to go about things. I think that every aspect of your life, honest marketing.
Honest marketing. I love that. I think I saw a post of you rereading Will Storr's book, The Status Game. Is that right?
I've read it. I don't know in what context.
I can't remember. I remember this was ages ago. I saw you I think you started rereading that book.
Fantastic book.
Unreal book. How he's been on this podcast actually. He went in on Michelin star restaurants, basically saying that chefs now, because he doesn't booze or anything, he just kind of goes with his wife to really fine dining restaurants. He's basically like, chefs are creating products a bit like your subprime audience thing. Chefs are creating 3-star Michelin chefs are creating food to impress other 3-star Michelin chefs with all the fancy fucking things you put on. They don't actually care about the consumer. And he goes, all I could taste, he went to the best restaurant in the world, Noma. It was like, all I could taste was vinegar wank, and it was just like all these little pipettes of things. And it's just so interesting. And he talks about kind of the blandemic of architecture is basically all architecture now looks shit because the architects are trying to impress other architects at these wanky status-filled awards versus actual what do consumers want. And he's just super interesting. But I'd love to know how honest marketing links to the status game, in your opinion. Or like, how does honest marketing make people feel status?
I would say it's more so that we're really disconnected. I feel like we're slightly disconnected from reality. A lot of people we're almost constantly semi-gaslit by the state of the economy, politics, everything as a nation. I always feel like we're never really true in being ourselves. We have to put a certain face on around people, whether you're on the train, catch someone, you put your feet up and some stranger seat, oh fuck, put my feet down because I'm a polite young man. I don't put my feet on train seats. There's no one there. Your fucking foot would be on the seat. So everywhere we go through life, we're putting these facades on, and it's just quite, I think for most people, exhausting. I think it's more about energy preservation than anything else. And I remember going from the corporate world into personal training. I'd wear a polo shirt, I would have an iPad, I would try and be professional, and I attracted the wrong people, and it was exhausting. It was only when I started swearing, put a black t-shirt on, didn't wear my uniform, would sit eating out my Tupperware at the side. So I'd be like, 2 more reps, eat my lunch. When I started being myself, I started attracting people just like myself. And to me, that's just a much less exhausting way of doing things. And on social media, even if there were, there are potential, let's say there are buyers, supermarkets, whatever, potentially listing, and they're trying to gauge whether or not this founder is going to be right, blah, blah, blah. It would be so inappropriate for me to talk about snorting cocaine, doing MDMA, having unprotected sex with strangers or whatever. But I know out there somewhere, someone could potentially listen to that and go, fuck me, that's refreshing. He's going to get a meet in Sainsbury's, and not all of them would.
Sainsbury's bar's a sniff head.
Yeah. They'll go, come to the Christmas party,
Yeah.
And while everyone's trying to go one way of being super professional, oh yes, our brand is the best. You should see our return on ad spend. Just coming out and just saying, look, anyway, you send me in the UK, I'll give out cans for free. Don't give a shit how many millions of followers I've got. Send me to fucking Sunderland. Take me to Newcastle. Put me outside of Greggs with a backpack. I'll do it. Because that honesty people aren't really real with. Some people and founders of drinks, because you have to get to almost a certain amount of clout to be in a position to create your own brand a lot of the time, especially in the creator market, whatever. It just so happens to be at the point that people's ego takes over. And I think that's such a shame for so many people. But
when you say ego takes over,
so have you read Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday?
Yeah. I've actually got a question about that. Yeah.
So exactly the point that when you start doing well, you start telling yourself a story about why things have gone well. And you can tell yourself a story. It's because of, your demeanor, your charisma, your ethos, your work ethic. But really it was the fact that you're a fucking psychopath for 3 years and got up at 4:30 and drank 15 cups of coffee a day. And you neglected most of the girls you dated, and that you barely saw your parents trying to build your business off the ground. If you believe your story, you stop doing the things that made you successful. But if you don't believe your story, you can keep doing the things that make you successful. And so many people that experience success and get to a certain point can sometimes lose connection of the person that got them there.
How is your ego your enemy?
It's interesting. My friends say to me that I'm the same person, but with just more money, and not a huge amount of money, by the way, a good amount, enough that I can bully my friends. I joke, and if my friend hasn't responded for a while, I'll send them £200 on Monzo and just call them a prick.
Jokes.
But then I'll often get it sent back, but it's the fact I'm doing it. Or, I love doing a thing where, say I'm with friends I haven't seen for a while, I pretend that I've lost touch of reality. I'd be like, oh, that dinner was only £300. I can't believe how cheap that was.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you fucking kidding me? I would honestly say I'm still the same person, but I quite like the fact that earning better has changed me, because it's not in a bad way. It is in the sense I'm more playful, I'm more fun, I like getting dinners. But as far as ego, I would say it's probably the only bad thing that I get really annoyed that the things that used to be big to me aren't anymore. I flew business class somewhere not too long ago, and I got off the plane and I was like, you fucking prick. You were nearly crying the first time you flew business because it was such a big feat to you. I had 6 glasses of red wine, and I had a moment where I was like, this is amazing. You should be proud of yourself. I was like tearing up on a plane. I flew first class, didn't even have a glass of champagne. I was like, you're a prick. I would say my ego has become an issue only where I lose gratuity of the things that used to be massive to me. First time I wasn't in an overdraft was amazing. but then you'll take a dividend and you won't feel anything. So for me now, it's just trying to remind myself what 25-year-old James would have done with that thing. 25-year-old James would have seen that business class and been like, oh my God, he would have, looked at the dividend you just took from the business, and that would have been life-changing. The only time my ego kind of really pisses me off at the moment is this kind of lack of emotion towards what were once great achievements. And I think that's part of my motivational mechanisms. But I beat myself up about it. I actually said to my business partner a few months ago, we took a dividend from the business, and I said to my missus, I go, this is really annoying. That's a good amount of money and I feel nothing. And I messaged my manager, I messaged Luke, I go, look, I'm only 35, I shouldn't be feeling numb to this amount of money. 10 years ago, I would have been fucking ecstatic. I would have gone to this bar. I would have said, everyone's having a fucking drink. Come on. Who knows a dealer? No, I'm joking. And I would have just had so much fun with it. So then I said to my business partner, he goes, do you know what? We're going to take 10% of this dividend. We're going to go to a bar in Sydney. We're going to put our card behind the bar, and we're just going to get shit-faced. And anyone we bump into, some lad from TikTok was like, I follow your stuff. I'm like, get a drink. Are these your mates? Get them a drink. Cards behind the bar. I was like, how old are you boys? 19. I was like, get them all a drink. You're probably poor at 19. I was. And we had the best time on 10% of it. So for me, it's still having fun, still enjoying the little things.
So fun almost dissipates the
yeah,
ego.
The ego thing that annoys me is what has become normal. And I never want to lose track of that. Like, I never want to, there are little things. You buy dinner and not even think about it. And then I leave the restaurant. I go, mate, you didn't earn that in a week when you were younger. And then you just tap because you can't be bothered for people to split the bill.
How's Chris's ego different from yours? Again, on that partnership thing.
The only gripe I have with Chris is maybe the odd expense here and there. So it'd be funny if he's listening to this. Say I today, or actually anything Newtonic based. Yesterday I went to a podcast. The Newtonic hadn't turned up, so I call Luke. He Ubered 4 cases there. It cost £90 to Uber them from Portsmouth to the podcast, because to me it was so important that there was Newtonic on the table when we chatted. We're not going to expense that. We're just going to eat that as a cost. I have a feeling that if Chris was there, he'd be like, guys, here's the receipt from the Uber. And I think it's because he just doesn't want to deal with the admin. He's got so much going on that he just doesn't want to deal with the receipt. That's to go into the Dropbox. That's to go to the accountant. But no, on the whole, Chris is fantastic. He, will pay so much attention to detail. The reason these taste so good is tantamount to Chris. Chris could be a sommelier of drinks. If you ever need anyone to go taste test at different factories, he's like, erythritol, sucralose. He literally knows.
Yeah.
But no, as far as ego, Chris is great. He's growing with the growth to his brand. And what I like is if I ever pop at him going, my reel got 1 million views, he'll go, here's a clip of Andrew Huberman saying he loves our drink. I'm like, okay, fair play.
Yes. A few more things, mate, then we'll wrap this up. I loved in your book when you talk about declinism. And that's basically looking back at the old days, thinking those are the good old days, right? Yeah.
I'm a hypocrite with this.
Yeah.
Do that.
I would love to know how sort of the rise of Clapham-based fitness influencers has increased our levels of declinism, because it fucking has for me. But I'd love to sort of kind of maybe turbocharged question there. But I think it is really interesting how social media, there are lots of pros to it, but there is this sort of, not necessarily Clapham, other influences are available, but like in terms of this fucking perfect life, which I think is actually really making people feel I think social media has made everyone externally more confident than ever before, but internally more insecure than ever before, because it's just you're constantly comparing. But yeah, I'd love to maybe explore that with you.
Yes, interesting. Like declinism, people seeing a negative outlook of the future. Like the world technically hasn't ever been as good as it is now. We just don't get that news from media outlets. But as far as your Clapham influencers, it's crazy. So people have become a product of their environment. So, for instance, Eddie Abu?
Yep.
A few years ago, his content was really quite sensible, and the things he said was really quite reasonable. But then he would have portrayed a character and then got feedback from the audience. So, for instance, I had this a little bit where I would say things online and then I'd call someone a fucking twat, and people are like, oh yeah, fucking twat. And then you're like, oh, cool, I'll swear. And then you get angry and you do something, you get like a response. But then you have to rein it in so that you're not a product of the people. Eddie Abo is just a product of what people want. He screams at something in a supermarket, he gets more attention, so he does it more. Then he gets a gingerbread man and calls it an obscenity, and people like it, and they G him up, and then he starts wearing disguises, then starts going in, then starts... You never really want to become a product of the people. However, a lot of modern day influencers are becoming exactly that. They think people want a certain character or persona online, so they try and embody it. So for instance, they think they need to be perfect. They need to have all of their food prepped. So many of them don't realize they're actually alienating themselves from the people they want to do business with. Because you and I could need maybe a well-educated, level-headed coach to help us with our diet, nutrition, and training. But when we see them doing a workout at 4:45 in the morning, or we see them with their perfectly created meal prep for the week, it actually makes us go, this person does not understand me. But if you saw a PT that was like, fucking hell, I've got a hangover, I've got 7 clients tomorrow, how the hell am I going to make it into work?
It's honest marketing, isn't it? Yeah.
You probably go, God, this is probably the PT for me. And I think this is, again, why maybe my brand did potentially better than others, because I've been open about all the skeletons in my closet. You know, guys, I did take recreational drugs the whole way through my 20s. But the majority of people in their 20s and 30s have done that. I mean, look at London, for instance, which is probably one of the best economic climates to go after. If you were to say to someone like, oh, I drink a little bit too much, my diet has room for improvement, and, you know, once to 3 times a year, I'll probably get on the bags with people for a special occasion, people go, yeah, that sounds about right. Not a PT that goes, I don't drink, I've never drunk because alcohol is a toxin and toxins are, you're like, fuck off, mate. This person doesn't understand me. And empathy is such a big part of people wanting to improve themselves. The person that helps someone improve themselves has to have something in common with them.
The honest marketing, the empathy, and what's coming to mind now as I'm thinking of the 1
to 3 times a year you get.
Well, no. But the I'll get the elbow now. But the when you, I think you put up a picture of your fucking derby and you're like, yeah, I'm a bit fat right now. You know what I mean? And I was like, fuck me, that is relatable because I've just smashed a load of Maccas on the weekend. I was thinking, fucking hell. And then the other day I pulled up a clip. Of this, like, it was Clapham based fitness influencer, and I was thinking, is this fucking society up? Like, genuinely, because it was like, I think it was a picture of them as a couple, and they were, so say I had the camera and that you had the camera, they'd done, so say you're my partner, right? They were going, right, we're going to work now, kiss, and then they goes, right, she's gone to work, and they added this into this reel, and it's like, he goes, I did my run, then I had my oats, then I did another workout, then I did my oats, then I had more fucking oats, then another workout. I was like, this is fucked, because it's like, if someone's doing a 20-minute hit sesh, or whatever, or an hour's gym sesh, like the benchmark for, like, if you're not doing a sub-3 marathon now from all these fuckers running around Battersea Park, it's like, you're shit. Do you know what I mean? And I'd love to know how that's sort of influencing declinism. Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting as well because so many people watching are just thinking, you bellend. You're probably just going to throw it out there. And then the creator sees that and goes, oh, that one did twice as many views. And people are literally like, oh, look at this fucking dickhead. You know?
Yes.
Oh, morning run, friends. Oh, run club. They're like, you fucking idiot. Like Bevo, for instance. One of the classic. Do you know Bevo?
No.
Dinner. You boys know him? So there's a guy on TikTok called Bevo, you know him? So he used to eat food in front of camera. And there's one video of him choking on a roast potato because he bites his food once and swallows it. Real weird eating pattern. It got like 30 million views. So then he became super famous from eating roast dinners.
Right.
He sits there and he goes, you know the rules. And he starts eating and he just takes one bite and swallows it. And sometimes he goes, and then he's getting nightclub appearances now at the moment. People are booking him to come in and he's a joke. But he doesn't realise he's a joke.
Oh, it's David Brent, isn't it? It's literally David Brent. Who was the other geezer? Was it You Got No Fans? You know,
Yeah.
Wilson Raider. Like, he was doing club nights. And
So sometimes people can get caught up with the result of that. I very much doubt someone's going to go, hey, mate, I just saw your morning run. I want to use you as a coach. You know, the transparency thing as well. I actually gain and lose weight throughout the year. And the crazy thing is I've spoken about this trifecta where you've got business, body and relationships. Only 2 in my life can go well at the same time. So for this trip back home, my body's suffering, but my business and relationships are doing well. I'm spending time with my family and I'm doing a lot of podcasts. When I go home, I'm going to give up a little bit of my business and a little bit of my relationships because I'm away from home and I'm not going to be in the podcast sense, but then I can work on my body. And it's very difficult to balance all 3 at the same time. But then let's say I go home at the end of this month and I'm 4 kilograms overweight. I could just, made more money this month than I've made in my life. Cool. You know, what would I rather have, the perfect physique or the well-performing month? And I think people just need to understand that we do go through cyclical seasons, not necessarily a cut and bulk, but you need periods where you're unhealthily obsessed with work, then you don't touch a laptop for 2 weeks. This monotone expectation of physique, of business, of relationships, it's just unrealistic. You need to go through times that you don't drink for 3 months, then you're a borderline alcoholic around Christmas. It's just part of kind of human nature. Sometimes, I'm sure we've all done this in the room, you're like, I'm going to start eating better tomorrow. So today, I'm going to eat so much fast food, it repulses me. I'm going to Bruce Bogtrotter the shit out of it and eat so much cake that I can't even look at a chocolate cake for 2 months. And I think that people need to show the ebbs and the flows, because social media, to me, the biggest problem with it is people are showing the best sides of themselves. And make it even worse, there's a creator called Goobu2, and he calls out people for editing their photos. This week, he caught a Mr. Olympia world champion editing his photos. This guy quite literally got the top accolade for physiques in the fucking universe, and he's editing his photos to make his delts look bigger.
What I want to talk about is the few more things. So that quote in your book by Daniel Kahneman, society rewards overconfidence. Why? And then why, as we talked about earlier, like the UK is quite potentially a bit glib and glum at the minute. Why is that more important than the UK? So important in the UK right now?
The first thing for overconfidence, you can see it just when someone, there is an element of competence to this though, I would say. So if you were to look at me talk about something on social media versus 10 other personal trainers, I would probably come across more overconfident than the others, but that would come from the competence of the amount of repetition I've done making the content. The same way that some salespeople, whether it be a secondhand car salesman or a door-to-door gas and electric salesman, they seem so perfect with their approach. It's not so much their confidence in the product, but the amount of times they've knocked on doors or sold cars. So overconfidence most probably stems a fraction from narcissism and maybe some bad sociopathic traits where someone does American Psycho. But the rest of the time, I do think there is a trail of breadcrumbs from competence in repetition. So the more times you practice, they say the more you practice, the luckier you get. But I would say as well, to that, society will reward someone, because if a guy comes up to a girl in the bar, not one stutter in his, hey, I think you're beautiful, I'd love to take you out for dinner, look pretty chilled, I'm going to give you a number. By the way, if you have got a boyfriend, no need to lie or tell me about it, just never text me back. Cool. Have a good night, enjoy it. Versus a guy, hi, I never usually, my number, here you go. The guy who's confident probably has done it more times. There probably is an element of competence to it. The woman, and in most business sense, the person that is most confident is probably going to get the sale or probably going to get the message back. I think that confidence can sometimes masquerade competence behind it. And I think that often we do want competence with a partner. Every single partnership, whether it's business, financial, sexual, you do want some level of competence to whether it is personal finances, sexual performance, whatever it is. We are actually all looking for competence from someone. Maybe even, this sounds probably rather, patriarchal tyranny. When men are choosing a woman, we want there to be some kind of competence in maybe child raising and looking after the house. And that's because I'm from more of a traditional upbringing. We are almost subconsciously sensing competence in all the people we meet, whether it be romantic, professional. You want competence. So I think that people that maybe have this facade or allure of overconfidence are actually the ones that are most competent in most cases.
Confidence is a barbell strategy as well, which is brilliant. When was but what I think really interesting about the book is you can lean on competence and confidence as sort of like a barbell strategy, but what you say is in terms of life, you can be really fucking confident in one area, but then a shit show in the other. Like I'm trying to think of an example, like
Mate, I used to
Tiger Woods, mate. Like Tiger Woods, right? Fucking confident at golf, right? His like in personal affairs isn't a fucking. Not saying he's not. That's maybe not confidence, but it's a bit of a fucking shit show when he's not on the golf course.
I did a TED talk. Fine, still used Hinge as a dating app because I wasn't confident enough to prospect, or there were so many elements I didn't want to get rejected after all the rejections on the gym floor. I actually got banned from Hinge twice for being me. So I'd go on Instagram, someone would go, hey, I just saw someone pretending to be you on Hinge, I've reported them, it was me. So then
jokes.
It's fucked. I got cock blocked by my following. So I was fucking awful, mate. It was so shit. That's like my claim to fame. Hinge blocked me.
Yeah.
And then the second time I went on, I couldn't get matches. But it's probably good for I'm now in a relationship. Maybe it had something to do with that.
What have been if someone is feeling unconfident in one area of their life, but like, as you say, they've got the TED Talk, which is right, you can do a fucking TED Talk, but you're still on Hinge. Like, what is the ways to bring that up?
So for me, again, action's always the way out of everything. And my friend George, when I moved to Australia, he deleted my dating apps on my phone. And he literally was like, no, you're going to start talking to girls. And I'd be in a cafe with him. He'd be like, go on. I'd be like, oh, yeah. He's like, go on. And I'd get my number, put it on a bit of paper, I'd give it to him. And I remember every time I came back, this is one of the great things. I probably learned this from him. When I came back from giving a girl my number, he would always joke and go, good dog. He was like an English guy from Southwest London. Every time, good dog. And when I got back and sat down, he was rewarding me for the effort, not the outcome. She hadn't messaged me. She hadn't gone on a date with me. She hadn't anything. She'd just taken a bit of paper from a stranger. But he recognized to me, he goes, good. That was the thing you didn't want to do. Well done, because you've done it. You're successful now. Whether you get a text or not is irrelevant. You've done the thing you were scared of. And I think that's where the kind of setting success metrics is so important in everyday life.
Yeah, it's almost you can build the confidence through the process of competence. And that's a virtuous circle.
No one's saying you have to be successful with your endeavor. No one's saying this has to go right. They're just saying you need to do it. I'm not saying she needs to accept a date, but you need to go give her a fucking number. I'm not saying the video has to go viral, but you need to post the fucking video. I'm not saying that the email has to be perfect, but you've got to send an email to your newsletter. I'm not saying the sign-up process has to be perfect, but you need to do a call to action today to get it.
Perfectionism's really fucking us up. We have to talk about the swimmer's fallacy. I was about to say the swimmer's phallus. I was like, that's a bit dodgy. But I think that's, you don't pick your sport, the sport picks you. Like that, I think is just not even for PT. I think that is like kind of been like X-ray for me, the way I view the world. And it's such an important thing. Could you talk about that? Because I think it's really
I got a million followers from that video. A million on TikTok from one video. Yeah. So Swimmer's Body Illusion from a book by Rolf Dobelli. And in it, there's this idea that there's someone who's fat, wants to get in shape. He looks at runners and he thinks they look skinny and miserable. Looks at bodybuilders and he thinks they look too muscular and stupid. So he goes, cool, looks at swimmers. I like that. I want that physique. So I'm going to start swimming. A few months into swimming, he realizes it's all an illusion. Swimmers don't look the way they do because they swim because of the way they look. And in essence, what that's saying is people who get in a swimming pool with long limbs, big hands, streamlined body, maybe even like a mobile upper back, they glide through the water easily and they get to the end and go, oh, I like swimming. But all the people with short levers, maybe small hands, maybe poor bone density to buoyancy ratios, they get to the end and go, fuck this, I'm going back to another sport. Same way that in rugby, if you're fast and agile, you go, oh, I'm probably going to play in the backs. If you're dense and strong and heavy, you get a position in the forwards. If you don't cater to any of these things, you don't get the reward, you don't enjoy the sport. Same way in the gym. I joke that all long distance runners are people that just never built muscle in the gym. They go to the gym, don't build any muscle, they go, fuck this, I'm gonna try something else. And because they've got frames that aren't really any good at building muscle, they go to start running and they love it. And people will say to me, oh, you big and broad because you played rugby. I said, no, I played rugby because I was big and broad. You don't pick your sport picks you. At 6 foot and 94 kilograms, my sport was almost predetermined for me. If I went to private school, I probably would have played at a higher level. But when we look around at personal trainers, people think that their local PT is a PT because of, their knowledge, their empathy, whatever. They're not. Most of the time, it's because they look like one. If you're a friend in your group of, say, 100 people in your school year, a few of you genetically are going to be leaner and more muscular than other people, whether it's base levels of testosterone in the higher ranges, whether it's a reduced appetite, whether it's whatever it is. Parents with certain genetics from different parts of the world, which has a real impact on your makeup. People go, fuck me, Dave, you should be a PT. Why? Because you love health? No, you look like one. Get you in a fucking vest, put you on camera, you'd be good, bruv. You know what I mean? Get in there. And this is what they did with people like Joe Wicks, right? Joe Wicks, naturally lean guy, good looking lad, great head of hair. His brother's gone, fucking hell, mate. We're going to get you jumping around the front room. We're going to make some fucking money out of this. Why? Because you look like the solution to the UK. He's not a fucking chef, mate, but they've gone, right, let's get you a few recipes. Get there, stand there, get that pan out. Say lean in 15, go on, lean in 15, perfect. They create the person. And with aftershave, they pick the smell last. So they choose the brand, they choose the packaging, they choose the bottle. They do it, this might not be true, but this is what I've heard. Yeah. And then they pick a smell to match the brand. So you would pick an element of your brand that you want to whether you're Dior, whether you're whatever, you would create, okay, we've got this one, the dark bottle, we've got the light bottle, let's create a grey bottle, cool. It's going to be a light fragrance, it's going to be for masculine men, it's going to be a sporty essence, cool, go make me the smell. So with so much of what we see in our world, that fitness pleb in Clapham doesn't look the way he does because of what he says what he says because of the way he looks. And for that is one of the biggest red flags in the industry. I mean, it sounds really bad to say this, but there are so many women with an eating disorder and a boob job giving you advice on how to eat and how to train.
It's just such, when I saw that and read that, or watched that video for the first time, and I think I've watched one of your YouTube videos about that, you kind of, as you say, it gives you x-ray vision. And also it's like, look, I'm a micro chode. Like if I'm going to try and play fucking basketball, it's just not going to happen as much as I'd like to. How does that spill over into other aspects of sort of culture and humanity, do you think?
Well,
not just PT.
I think the majority of CEOs are over 6 foot. I think 60% of CEOs are 6 foot and over. The majority of them are, men as well. And I don't think that comes from sexist. I think it comes from interests, but also the fact that often a leader of a tribe or an army or whatever would be one of your biggest and strongest men. I think that there's subconscious things to that. Big people often do go into roles of leadership. Whether or not that's right or not, I don't know. I think as well that, absolute size is another big thing, especially in sport. It can be a hindrance in some. But then also genetically between us, we have differences in appetite, muscle mass, bone density, sporting ability, whatever it is. And we just need to appreciate that when we're looking at a fitness influencer, are we looking at someone who knows they can make money from saying a certain thing, or are we actually looking at a real person?
Final thing, is in Australia, I'd love to know who's sort of the most unusual person you've ever met over there, and how do they change the way you view the world?
Oh, that's an interesting one, actually. I'm like now scanning through Australia. Oh God, you really put me on the spot here with this one. I said about the story with the people in the cafe before.
Yeah.
I remember it's not actually that strange, but I put this in the second book. It was a guy that was serving steak in a restaurant when I was 2018 in Manly. Manly is this beautiful beach in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I remember it was almost, he was working in this restaurant at night and he was a good looking lad, and I kind of asked him a few questions. He had a border collie dog and he surfed, and he just worked in the evenings in the steak restaurant. He worked from 6 p.m. till midnight, I expect. And it was chatting to him where I went, fucking hell, you've got a great life. I never even knew the guy's name, and I was never the same after that dinner. I've never stopped thinking about this dude that works in Manly at a steak restaurant, that surfs and chills with his dog all day and works 6 p.m. till midnight at night. I was like, bro, on paper, you probably don't have much, but in reality, you have one of the best lives ever. And I wish that more people in the world could zoom out for a second and realize this dude's probably not got a car, probably not a homeowner, probably not got investments, probably not got stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds, whatever. But in some respects, he's got everything. And he may not have what he needs to have pleasurable things in life, but he's got all the things he needs to be happy in life. And I wish that more people could snap out of their existence to really take stock of, am I doing things in life to make things pleasurable, or am I doing them in life to make myself happy? Because there are a lot of people with a lot of pleasurable things that aren't happy, and a lot of people with nothing that makes them pleasurable, kicking around in an odd pair of trainers.
How does your kind of, I know you read a lot, and your curiosity, I believe, actually genuinely believe it's like curiosity, when I'm being curious, it's an antidote to any form of anxiety and depression or negativity I've got in my head. As soon as I start being curious, whether that's writing or reading, I'd love to know kind of what your curiosity looks like. Like, what are you currently reading where you get these sort of, as I say, really pithy principles? Like, what are the sort of the tabs on your computer? I don't mean that in a dodgy way, but like...
This year I studied a YouTube course, which has been fascinating, because actually so much of YouTube actually explains so much more about everything else. So retention, curiosity, click-through, retention. If you can get YouTube right, it can benefit so many parts of your business. And I was under the illusion that YouTube was just longer videos.
Really?
But there is a whole art of human interests, emotions, psychology, economics. It sounds like I'm becoming like a YouTube nut, but little things. I worked with a YouTube strategist a few weeks ago where he got me to change the letter I for lowercase in my title so it looks like I care less. So it's actually quite difficult to put a lowercase I in a sentence because it auto-corrects it to a capital I. But then I've started doing lowercase titles, just so it's like, here's how I made money without taking sales calls. Because
I saw that one. That was
yeah,
sick.
so like trying to find things. Then chaotic thumbnails, where rather than having a pristine, well-polished thumbnail, I took 4 screen grabs from different screens. One of them is a Venn diagram from a beauty channel, but it looked nice, so I just put it in. But no one's actually reading the Venn diagram. It's just in there to make it look scattered. So I'm trying so many different things to try and win over people's attention. But YouTube, my next book will be, I will have taken so many lessons from what I've learned on YouTube. I will make sure I see at least 20 variations of title and book cover. The introduction will probably take more than, I'll probably spend more time writing the introduction than the next 4 or 5 chapters. And I'll probably go back and keep obsessing over the introduction, because even the landscape of where people absorb books now, they'll probably listen to it on Spotify for free. Then you get a royalty depending on the percentage of the book they listen to. So if someone only listens to your introduction and fucks off, you get a fraction of a royalty. So the landscape's changing, where I'm now going to have to write a book based on retention. Not that someone's got my book on a beach somewhere that they're reading, or on a plane, that they're listening to this in their car. And if I give them any opportunity to leave this audiobook for another podcast, they'll go.
What are some of the hacks you learned from, because like our main YouTube videos do all right, and at the minute the I'm measuring the average duration time, because we're not getting many views on some videos, but those who are watching for a fucking long time, which is good because it shows that there's a stickiness there. So I'm trying to get the top of the funnel, getting more people into the fucking podcast. What are some of those one, like, out of that course, what are the 2 real big hacks? Is it
sounds crazy, title and thumbnails,
and what's the thing you can use to like check it, or like A/B test it?
Oh, the thumbnail test website is good, but then you're only A/B split testing. That you have to make sure the title and thumbnails are right. You have to play on someone wanting to come to the conclusion of how or why.
How or why?
So your title should make them think about that.
How or why?
I quit my big YouTube channel. Why? I made $13 million in 7 years. How? If you can get someone to think how or why to your title and thumbnail, they'll probably click. Yeah. And for so many, maybe not so much in the podcast game, but my channels did a lot better when I picked the title and thumbnail first, because then the introduction of my video pays off the title and thumbnail. If I make a video, then try and package it afterwards, it won't make sense.
Yeah, so with podcasts specifically, how would you do that? Like, because I go into it's interesting what you said about Chris, of like pre-selecting the clip. I
actually think that you should go record the episode, make a short, make a 10-minute video, then release the full one.
Yeah.
So like, imagine you want to get your 1 minute of fire, your 10 minutes of fire, and with those 2 assets alone, create enough, and just think that 10-minute clip could be evergreen for the next year, or that 10-minute clip might go viral in 6 months, because I could be in a sex scandal. You never know. I'm not joking. Please don't. But you never know. So there are so many of my videos. There was one skit I did, a Jiu-Jitsu skit, that for 11 months just deadlined, and then boom, 2 million views. And just the algorithm just decided to put it in front of some people and just took off. So then you've got things streamlined. You know, like
so at the minute we're doing long episode, and then I'm doing 3 clips, 3 10-minute clips.
Yeah,
afterwards.
perfect.
And do you reckon front loading it's actually better?
Could be. I think so. Yeah, because then you get people wanting the episode. I think see it like geese flying formation.
Yeah.
You want your narrowest at the front,
and
then wider at the back. That's how I think about it.
Sick. Mate, we've gone over, so I'm super grateful for your time. I've absolutely loved that. I love this. I'm buzzing my nut off right now, which is a good thing. And yeah, I really appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers. Thanks.
Nice one, mate.
Thanks. I'm about to piss myself.
Yeah.
Where are the toilets?